gaffers.
Good to be gathered.
Cheers, drinking buddies.
Cheers. Health and happiness.
Health and happiness, my drinking brothers and sisters.
There's something in a Sunday, so I'm happy to be with the drinking buddies.
Sunday morning sidewalk.
So here in Ohio, it's 88 degrees, and we all paddled out to this amazing lake at this amazing Gatsby pool bar, I like to call it. And then we're thinking, wow, we haven't done a podcast in like a month. And then we paddled right out of there and sprinted here and decided to film Drinking Buddies episode 3. Depending on whether or not episode 2 gets canned, this might be episode 2. But Drinking Buddies 1 is out.
Did not expect
2
that
is
to come
not.
of our canoe trip.
Really? I tried to tell you before you guys even went out that.
Exactly. I thought it was a lost cause. Trey suggested it. Was like, no, too short notice.
Well,
We aren't
mulled it over.
spontaneous.
typically we record these on Friday nights in the prime drinking hour. Sunday afternoons was a little curveball, but
Had to work
we
one
realized
day.
we drink around the clock, so it didn't make much of a difference.
We are authentic drinking buddies out there. As it turns out, for every one podcast we get filmed, we hang out and basically do a podcast without recording it about 10 times. So we're pretty much living this life authentically, but not giving to you, drinking brothers and sisters, as much as we should.
I blame our day jobs. It's plural. Just over broke.
So I did rewatch the first one and a couple of housekeeping issues. I think I gave a lot of bad advice about fighting cheetahs with rocks and circumnavigating the globe in kayaks.
A little housekeeping, you say?
And for whatever reason, I couldn't admit Donald Trump was 74, which he clearly was, despite Trey Googling it. So I apologize for all those. And I'm not an expert at anything, and we like all our drinking buddies out there to do their own thinking for themselves. So if you hear anything on here that seems a little questionable to you, it probably is, and feel free to look into it and think of everything on your own. Don't trust me more than you would any other of your drinking buddies.
Yeah, there's no information by authority. Everything has to be true or falsified on its own merit. The way of a good philosopher.
I do stick to don't chop off our leaders' heads, though. That was one I'm agreeing.
You weren't arguing for chopping off
I was
heads?
arguing that we should never do that, and I'm stand by that one. I think that was still good advice.
What's this fighting cheetahs with rock throwing? What? Can you elaborate on that?
No, everyone is
Housekeeping?
seen
We don't need
Drinking Buddies
to
#1.
our housekeeping doesn't need to be a full recap.
Well, I don't know if I should or if I shouldn't fight a cheetah with rocks.
Oh, you have to go listen to Drinking Buddies 1 and find out.
We're gonna cover new ground.
So we just got off of our week-long, one of our heaviest week-long drinking ceremonies of the year.
Jim Beach, Catawba Island, Lake Erie.
The Elysium Mysteries, where everyone gets as glorious as physically possible for 7 consecutive days. And there are typically a lot of fatalities.
This year was no different. People left
in
the
body
rescue
bags.
chopper.
Left and right. Get to the chopper. We had a MacGruber hospital visit.
Yeah,
Hard to
I
really.
guess we could do the full recap. I mean,
I don't know if
I
we should
mean,
or not. Good
Catawba
question.
Island trip without at least 3 fatalities is considered a dull affair. So
yep. We have an annual golf outing amongst the drinking cousins and drinking brethren. And this year there was some threesome shenanigans in the scramble,
asterisks.
but all good. Shout out to Josh and Pete for making their debut,
Yes.
their debut golf trips.
1-0 in Jim Beach championship history. Oh, yeah.
I liked when the helicopter came down looking for Pete on the first hole while I'm trying to make
The
putts and
sheriff.
lands right on the golf course. And
Pretty annoying. Never before have I seen that. It was literally the Goodfellas where there's a FBI helicopter trailing the golf cart around the golf course and circling the greens and making as much noise as possible. And it was May or may not have been for Pete.
I tricked our poor boy Pete into shaving into a mustache right before that, so he was really suspicious and wanted for lots of
The mustache is not
lots of
an
Amber
innocent
Alerts.
innocent look.
It's one of those faces where if you slap a mustache on it, it's
It looks like every police artist sketch in a 100-mile radius. So he escaped unscathed, however.
Oh man! So we're coming off the bachelor party. Mason and I had just done a 48-hour consecutive rage in Columbus, and then I show up at Jim Beach for Sunday night, and the situation was kind of thrown on its head the night before. We found out our party was double booked, so everyone was partying in a barracks, a long room with only bunk beds on every wall.
Yeah, typically we rage like civilized men in a cottage with all of our friends and family around us, but this year we were in a windowless army barracks.
with 0 amenities, no running water.
Reminded
No.
everyone of jail.
Just like, yeah, a concrete floor and then 20 bunk beds. And and it didn't even phase us.
Everyone's going strong.
Turned it right into it. The beer pong.
I think that has something to say that it's not about where we are, but who we're with, or
Amen.
something like
Yes.
the attitude.
Drinking
Or,
buddies.
Woo! Good call. So the next big event, Put-in-Bay, I guess we actually did Put-in-Bay first. But Put-in-Bay is allegedly like Las Vegas party town for those people who partake in that. But we always go during the day.
Yeah, all you drinking buddies who go to Put-in-Bay, it's a good time, and we do it once a year.
Cheers. The winery was good. The wine was good. No meat sticks, though. That was a little sad.
Yeah, Heineman's Winery
Our favorite winery.
stopped selling meat sticks,
Maybe just because
and they call
of
themselves a winery.
the shortage or
they
the
used to have really good meat sticks, and then they slowly,
slowly been switching to dog meat.
what do you call it? Reverse evolution, where they're devolving until they had no meat sticks at all. They were good, and then they're
Yeah.
decent,
We're gonna go there, and it's just gonna
edible,
be a
bad,
They have
nothing.
It's just a vineyard and a building where they're hoping to make a winery someday.
And then we'll go back to the next year. It'll just be old growth forests. So we're like, whoa,
These guys really.
wasn't there a winery here last year?
And then if we get to start the genius idea of a winery on the old growth forest,
Nice.
Ouch.
I think we just looked it up, and technically, Lake Erie is a rainforest.
Oh yeah. That was long debated in episode 1, and I think we decided it gets rainforest levels of rain. So
Ohio
yeah.
itself is a
No, not
Just-
specifically Ohio, but specifically around
Put-in-Bay.
Lake Erie, around the lake. The
That's what we
lake effect
decided?
rain.
Yeah,
The
so just like the
Lake
Pacific
Basin?
Northwest, Oregon and Washington and British Columbia get all that Pacific rain. The lake effect area around Lake Erie is a
They get like
rainforest.
101 inches of snow and rain,
I guess
precipitation.
it's true. We always hear about the lake effect.
Yeah, the lake effect
Rains and-
rainforest. So an old growth temperate rainforest.
Come to think of it, it does look a little
It
extra
does.
green and healthy up there.
Yeah.
Death Island is like a prehistoric island of.
Mouse Island. We knew all that area was very
Lush and green
Yeah.
and tropic.
prehistoric.
That's why they put prehistoric forest there. R.I.P. too soon.
Alright,
Prehistoric
genius
forest.
idea though. They could set that up anywhere, and that's
Yeah.
$1 million idea.
What was it
What's
going
the
on there?
up- what's
I
the
think
It's an
upkeep
RV
on
park
that?
now.
Okay.
It's a parking
Oh,
lot
yeah,
for.
the RV park goes way back. That looks like $1 billion idea. That's just raking in the money for
the RV
doing
parks.
nothing. Yeah,
I
having
think
a
that's
parking lot
what
for a little park.
became of Sleepy Hollow. It's an RV park now.
R.I.P. too soon.
There's not as much money in the family camping and tent.
Yeah, but
Or
seems
in
like you should
Dinosaur
still be able
Park?
to keep the tent there. In the dinosaur park, just selling
Ooh,
dinosaurs in the
True, it could be a campground
But
slash prehistoric.
every
forest.
every campground could easily just sell dinosaurs in their gift shop, and that would attract people just for the
So we
dinosaurs.
really need a dinosaur toy making facility.
3D printing them.
That would be nice. A little Land of the Lost boat ride into a tunnel,
And that's all you need in the gift shop.
and then the gift shop. That's how.
And then you can just be a perfect drinking buddy and set for life. Podcast once a week. Sell one gift and one boat ride a week. Just get lit up all day in the parking lot
And
waiting
then
for
buy
customers.
like 20 McChickens off it and
Yep.
a dozen eggs.
So
And
The
someone
gift
just-
shop scheme is our next $1 million.
Someone just needs to gift us the land in the park and somehow
dinosaur
have it be tax
sculptures?
free. Yeah.
And yeah, having it by a lake or in a rainforest helps the prehistoric
Definitely.
atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. That was full
Agreed.
prehistoric forest up at.
I wonder
Good
if they
top
did a
on.
lot of snow damage in the winter that they'd have to amend, or if they covered up the stuff well. Or
For the
I wonder how
dinosaur
much
park,
upkeep was
If you
on the
have a
dinosaur
huge
park.
statue,
The
it shouldn't
dinosaurs
take any snow damage.
definitely looked rough after a while.
After
But
40
I
years,
think just like trimming because it's a rainforest, the rainforest overtakes that shit in a couple of years. So you have to constantly battle it back, keep the
probably
greenery off.
repaint everything.
True.
With
Not
good
sure.
seal.
Yeah, repaint it
Well, I
constantly.
mean, just tarp it up in the winter, and then you have to cut it all down and landscape in the spring and get
Yep.
it ready.
And then you can have bonfires every night for partying.
Do you think the RV park still has some of the old relics?
Yeah,
Amongst it?
unless they sold it to a different park and some truck hauled off every single one.
I
And
thought they
seems like they should all be littered around the outside the RV park.
sold a lot of them to like Cedar Point or something.
Oh, maybe.
And now they have some dinosaur statues.
That's
I haven't been
exciting.
there since it closed down though.
To Cedar Point or to the dinosaur park
I have not visited the RV park or Cedar Point since
since the dinosaur
the
park
dinosaur
closed
park
down.
closed down.
Nice. Yeah, me neither. I did drive by the RV park today, or the
Well-
Jim Beach.
Not today.
Not today.
And it looked, you couldn't really see inside the forest.
Oh,
No,
you
the
could
forest
see
was
a
cut
million
down,
miles
yeah.
of RV parking
You can
lot.
see the RVs as far as the eye
As
can
As
go.
far as the eye could
I
see.
just saw the little cabin out front. That
Yeah,
I think where the
and
gift shop
also
is.
right next to the cabin was a little bar. Shout out to that little bar we went to once and got pizza and played pool with the cast.
Wait, that
elements.
one's overgrown too? Or?
Yeah, it's out of business. And it's right in front of the.
Why do all these great
prehistoric
business
forest.
ideas die out? And why can't a winery
COVID
keep meat sticks in
COVID
stock?
probably didn't help.
Yeah, I'd say
Everyone's
COVID
still having the
probably hurt.
backlash of the COVID.
Well, once a business goes out, it's pretty hard to restart. Probably. I,
think-
don't know. I've never started a business.
Someone said this cure can't be worse than the cause or the disease, and
That's what happened for COVID. The cure was worse than the disease. Question mark?
I
question
think
mark?
we're still reaping both of
We're
the
still
Probably
cure and the
deciding.
More-
disease.
The information's
still
still coming in.
Because it's about to mutate and get 1,000 times worse. And
No, I don't think it's that rapid.
don't quote me on that.
I have heard from my news sources, which are unreliable or maybe reliable, that there is some mutations going on though, and that there's new
Always.
variants
Definitely.
that are a concern.
I heard the Wu-Tang Lab or
Spitting out and more.
that they
There's another escaped virus.
hey, someone needs to stop them before they genetically engineer any more viruses because they have not stopped, and if anything, they increased production of viruses since
Oh,
they found out how successful their first one was.
True.
first one was wildly successful.
Well, mostly the panic that
The largest pandemic since
if
1917.
you didn't know, the U.S.'s media is all fear-mongering people that preach to do the most drastic panic reaction you
Yeah,
can.
I'm
to
not a
any bit of news they get.
I'm not a doctor or scientist. I don't know how many people died, but I think every person on the planet got infected, so that's pretty good infection rate.
Yeah, definitely. The infection rate has got to be higher than
Yeah,
what they have because
100% infection
it's
rate.
only positive tests is the data they have, and there's many more than that. But yeah, we're sitting here in the roaring 20s in the midst of a pandemic, an ongoing pandemic.
Well, you know, I think I
Just
don't know if
trying
we
to-
joked about it in 2020, but I think someone cited that there was the Spanish flu in the last Roaring 20s, so we had that to look forward to in these 20s, and we
Exactly.
broke it out really quick right in 2021. Or 2020.
I think the similarities have been pointed out. We're about to be in another Great Depression.
Yeah. Is there about to be another prohibition? A great prohibition?
We've been in the great prohibition of
Forever,
marijuana
since
for my entire life.
1932.
But
Well, didn't they outlaw it the day they legalized alcohol? They outlawed marijuana so they'd have some other imaginary war on drugs to fight with all the same stormtroopers.
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was about like 1937.
Sounds right to me.
Whenever. Who's that guy? William Randolph Hearst, newspapers. He bought a bunch of paper farms and paper mills, and
Didn't like how
And then
hemp was making paper cheaper.
it turns out you could make hemp paper. You could harvest it like every 3 months, and it took like 20 years to grow your forest. So you chop down, so you get infinite more yield off the same amount of your land.
that newspaper, and Hearst had a good influence.
And then he had controlled all of media.
How hard would it have been to just preach the
Just print
success
lies.
of hemp and say, we don't care what Hearst is saying about this?
Hearst had all those people shot.
He owned all the
He
newspapers.
had all their fingernails pulled out.
Brutal. Well, as the cycle continues and marijuana is on the verge of being recreational use everywhere, I hope they don't flip
Yeah,
the switch and then
exactly.
alcohol back in the prohibition
Yep.
again.
No.
Just so they can continue the war on drugs.
It'd have to be something even more malicious.
Innocent and innocuous
Yeah, innocent.
than the hemp.
Also, last episode I made up the rumor that Henry Ford chopped off the natives' arms if they didn't bring him enough rubber. So I think William Randolph Hearst also chopped off the arm of everyone who preached against marijuana prohibition. Let's throw that rumor out there.
It's been a while since we've done a podcast episode.
I think Randolph Hearst actually just missed his sled he had when he was a kid. And he was he had a
what-
big hole inside of him that only a sled could fill.
Sled-shaped hole.
A sled-shaped
Get it?
hole.
What was the sled story?
Don't want to spoil any
I think there's a name.
classic
His sled had
movies.
a
This is the
Rosebud.
Citizen Kane plot.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, never mind. No spoiler alerts on that. The first movie ever made.
You tell me I can't
I'll
spoil
have to go
alert a
back-
movie made
No,
9
you
years
said you
ago.
couldn't spoil it. I'll have to go back and watch it, though, I guess. I haven't ever watched it, so shame on me.
When was that made like contemporary with Randolph Hearst, or was that already post
No,
Randolph
I think it was
Hearst?
I think
contemporaneous.
Hearst really
It was at
didn't
the
want them to
same
make it
exact time,
either,
yeah.
but that actor George
Orson
Orson
Welles
Welles,
made it, fought his way through
Yeah,
the.
he didn't give a damn.
So, although I haven't seen it, I did watch the biopic of the guy who actually wrote it with Orson Welles.
Ooh.
So it starred, who's Commissioner Gordon from Batman? And Dr.
Gary
Smith.
Oldman.
Gary Oldman played a raging alcoholic writer, and it was a period piece set in 1932 while they co-wrote it together. And that movie was really good and made out this other no-name guy who it was a biopic of to be the real genius and writer behind it. But he was
Those-
definitely a lush, and it was a classic drinking biopic.
Yeah, those lesser-known biopics are really good hidden
Biopic
gems.
is the best genre. For
Always
sure.
about alcoholic writers or musicians.
Specifically rock biopic.
Yeah,
but
seriously, there's
biopic.
not enough of those.
Or war biopic maybe. if
Or
there's-
author biopic.
Paul McCartney just had a new one out. That's
Oh,
on
shut up.
Hulu.
What?
That
It's
looks
released?
good. Yeah.
It's a fictional version?
It's
a biopic and not a documentary?
I think it's like a documentary having him. Full. It's not a biopic. It's a full documentary,
Okay, that's
which is even more has better
no, that's
information.
good, but really fun also. But yeah,
It's
I
not like the Queen movie.
I like the biopics where it's actors playing them and telling the story.
So technically, Alexander Revisited was a biopic, right?
Yes, exactly. That was a biopic.
No wonder biopics are the best movies of all time.
Exactly.
And
No
Braveheart is a biopic.
Yes, correct. William Wallace biopic.
Yes.
Gladiator, not a biopic, just a regular action movie.
Historical
Yep.
fiction.
Yep, that one I think
Die Hard.
was a little better. I don't know which is better, Gladiator or Braveheart.
That's a debate. For
a drinking
longer than a
buddies.
full podcast.
It's a perfect drinking buddies podcast debate. I'm gonna go with Gladiator.
Yeah, I guess it kind of goes down to your preferences, but I preferred Braveheart.
Nice.
It depends.
William Wallace, of course, has to take William's side.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
I think the biopic aspect actually bumped it up a little bit over the.
Nice.
Just fictional talent.
Well, I don't know if I've talked about this topic. I've probably mentioned it in passing. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, but all your favorite heroes and all your favorite action movies are people on the edge who've lost it all, and Braveheart and Gladiator are both about a one man on the edge who lost it all. Has to.
Brutal.
That's good
So
motivation for.
Freaking savage. Poor Gladiator. He had.
How long has it been, Gladiator? 6 years, 3 months, and
Oh my
82
gosh. And then
days.
he gets home and his whole family's burned instead of waiting for him alive. Spoiler
That's
alert.
rough.
Spoilers.
He left after he was already arrested, though.
my God.
He had started a lot of shit.
Well, yeah, they're
That
like,
was
It's
the
kill
greatest-
him.
Embrace,
That's the
recognize your king,
That's
Maximus.
the greatest movie ever.
Recognize him. And he refused. But also, William Wallace got the short end of the stick when his bride.
Well,
He
first
was-
his father and brother, and then everyone else, and bride, and yeah,
Man.
but everyone.
And then he goes in the person's house in the night with the mace.
Yeah.
That has to be one of the best.
Savage.
Revenge is a dish best served hot and while they're in their bed.
You'd rather run away from this battle and die in your bed tomorrow?
1,000 days from now, when you're in bed dying,
You meant
you trade every one of those 1,000
if
days.
you're not out on
for
this
one
field, it's gonna
chance.
be. I'm coming for you.
I know. I don't know where you live, but I'll find out. And,
You
Crush you
trade
to
all
death.
those days.
So I've been rewatching all the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and I recently rewatched Commando. In a way, it's the precursor to Taken, because the guy, someone takes his daughter and then he murders everyone in the most extreme and gratuitous fashion. So those
It's
are
a classic
basically the
archetype.
exact same plot. Yeah.
but in Commando, they say we're gonna kidnap the most lethal man we know's daughter
Yep.
and convince him to kill someone for
Kill a
us.
president or something, because they wanted to use his
Killing ability.
yeah, killing skills to their advantage, but he wasn't playing their games.
Boy, did that blow up in their
Also-
face.
Also, super mindfuck I came up with last time I watched it. You know the general who goes to Arnold and warns him. He's constantly trying to get Arnold out of retirement. What if he set this up to get Arnold to kill? So there's this legion of bad guys on this island who's about to have a coup. He wants Arnold to fight them. Arnold's like, fuck you, I'm retired. So he swindles it, so Arnold has to go in. And then Arnold kills everyone there is because the general tricked him
Yeah.
into doing it. And then at the end, the general's there. He's like, Arnold, you really need to come out of retirement. He's like, nope, this was the last one. And the general's like, until next time, wink. So he's just going to set up another thing where Arnold has to go anytime he needs 5,000 of the elite soldiers in some other country killed. He swindles it so Arnold's daughter's kidnapped and Arnold just happens to go and murder the 5,000 most dangerous people he needs
Yeah.
killed. So Arnold actually can't retire and the general's swindling him.
Great fan theory. So the general would have convinced like Bennett and
Yeah.
that
To-
to say, hey, if you kidnap his daughter, he might do this for
he
you.
incepted them somehow to
But-
be like, you want this guy assassinated, you need Arnold to do it, knowing Arnold's really going to
And
murder all of
then
them.
he knew all along he would just
Yeah.
go get his daughter back
Well,
and kill everyone.
Bennett and Arnold worked together under that general, right? So
Yep.
they do have all the ties.
He,
are all
yeah, he
there.
was playing both sides. He knows every one of
exactly.
them.
So it seemed like that was what was happening in this viewing to me.
Nice.
The general was swindling.
They never made a Commando 2 though, but they could have using that.
Yeah,
They should
but
have made
it's,
a million Conan the
it's
Barbarian.
better to
movies.
just make one and be one and done.
I don't know. The Conans were all really good, and then they always end. But there's another story
That's true.
about how he became
They
the king
should have
of
made-
barbarians. And
They should have made a million Conans. That was a really good series.
But speaking of that, they made way too many Terminators, and they get worse and worse. after T2.
I haven't watched all of them. I haven't seen, I think, the last 2 or 3. I don't think I saw any
There's
of the
like a
Christian
new
Bale
one with
grown-up ones.
present day old Arnold, and he plays a old robot who's like a carpet cleaner.
Yeah, really? There's one that came out a few years ago where Sarah Connor's back and she's the main character.
Yep.
I think that was the one.
I think Arnold plays the full role in that. So
And it was kind of cool, I guess,
yeah,
because it
exactly.
had them,
I
but
would
it was
really
still
that one
ridiculous.
is on my list to watch.
Well,
so
I
I'm
mean,
really
he's
looking forward to seeing that one
still
because
the
he's the main
robot.
character again. Yeah.
He's got the machine in him, but he's just got the living tissue, and the living tissue
No.
just does what living tissue does,
And
and
they all right.
it ages,
But
and
it
he
is-
becomes as
they
the
should
old
have-
outer
It's
shell.
very
They
realistic.
should
living
easily
tissue.
be able to control how fast the tissue's aging.
Not if
For sure.
you don't want.
To
Someone
raise
to reckon-
suspicion.
Kyle Reese will spot that in a
Yeah,
second if
that's
it's not
true.
aging. He'll be like, "This guy, I
They
saw him."
had rubber
there you go.
skin, and you could tell them from far away. But
And then we had Terminators that didn't age, but they were onto that too.
didn't I see you 10 years ago, and you looked
Okay,
exactly the
okay.
same? On that
The
Dude,
video.
Arnold
the
and-
AI is sophisticated.
Arnold in T1 was so big and strong and young and badass. That was such a good one.
T1, groundbreaking film,
my God.
launched Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Absolutely will not stop. Yeah, and then he's just making all amazing movies after that. That was definitely the hero making one. And was that James Cameron also?
Yeah.
It was.
James Cameron's so goddamn good.
Also, I'm gonna have to
Savagely good.
depart from you guys
You're going to take dump number 2
for
20 minutes into the podcast.
some time. I need some time off. from my office.
Taking a beer with you.
He's going to go to his office and do some research.
Office breaks are
Oh,
allowed.
man. So, yeah.
Didn't see that coming though.
I think we all saw that coming. So Predator, Commando, Arnold's pretty much the same exact guy as he was in Commando, leader of an elite squad of super soldiers. And yeah, that was the one where he's fighting the Predator. I was like, man, 1 out of a billion humans is Arnold, and that's the best of the best of the best you would ever happen to fight.
But I think part of the storyline is the Predator is always collecting trophies. He kind of
Yeah.
wants the best fight. So
Exactly.
he's doing the
That's
most dangerous game, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
definitely, exactly. He is doing the most dangerous game. That's the crazy backstory I never heard until Uncle Bobby B told me last year, but that was cool. And then they did have the scene where he had all those skulls. He was collecting skulls there.
Yeah.
And then after you hear his version where he's only hunting the most dangerous hunters, then it makes a lot more sense than everything the Predator's doing.
Going from planet to planet, looking for a
The most
match.
dangerous game and fighting it. And
That's
kill it.
probably what, in the infinite universe, there's probably some species out there playing that game right
Yeah,
now.
what a sick game. Hope they never hit our universe, Morty.
Yeah. Could you, species capable of interstellar travel, and then it's gonna go out in the jungle and pick a fight with someone?
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be a match. I don't think there's a sapien alive other than
Yeah.
the greats, Navy SEALs, and trained combat.
Yeah, that's what he was reminding me of Richard Marcinko, the rogue warrior. That's who I was picturing. It's like, that's the real life.
The founder
Dutch.
of
Yeah,
of-
he was
like the founder of
literally
the SEAL
Dutch.
teams.
Yeah, exactly. 6'2", 250 pounds, and it does all of Arnold's exact amount of weights, and is
Yeah.
a savage.
Did you read that one?
The original Rogue Warrior, that was amazing. But it's
He's
been
he was
20
a
years at least since I
PA
read it.
born,
Really?
the cool towns of
Sick.
Pennsylvania.
But yeah, every one of them, they had to like bench 500 pounds and squat 1,000 pounds and run 20 miles and swim underwater, climb a
Yeah.
rock wall using only their hands.
It's impressive.
That there's murderers out there who just want to do that, and they're like, fuck yeah, I
And
love
they
the challenge.
recruit 'em right in,
Yep.
and they're actually perfect for the job.
Exactly. And they're like, who needs killed?
Serious-
Perfect.
well,
I
hey.
can't wait.
But if if that's your job, then that's who you want. It's the necessary kills.
Yeah, those are the people
Theoretically.
who should be fighting all of our wars for us, and we never hear anything about them, and they happen, and they're over, and there's no publicity, and no official wars declared, and no quadrillion dollar campaigns and
Yeah, formal
country
war
building.
s-
Yeah,
for
formal war should be eliminated.
unless it's like something that requires a formal war declaration. But if it's like
a country that's a nuclear power declares war on you first,
then
that
you,
would be one where you would think about declaring war. I think.
yeah. I guess the military strategists might have their own opinions, but for sure I feel like the last 20 years of our Middle East occupation has been less
Oh
than
my God! Literally,
ideal.
it's 20 years.
And I heard I guess every now and then in the news it trickles out that they're withdrawing troops. I don't know how close we are to the actual end.
I have no idea either. Unfortunately, I've taken no news. I'm the most uninformed person on the planet. Sorry about that. Part of it's because I don't know how or where I would ever find accurate, reliable news.
source.
So, but even before then, the only news is bad news, and the news is horrifically depressing. So anytime you watch it, you're bummed out. So I'm like, I can just live my life and let everyone else worry about the hard, important things. So I've been doing that. Also, in case episode 2 is gone, Freak Power, baby, is our new political ticket. And yeah, I endorse the Freak Power candidates. You know who you are.
Excellent.
Trey's back from his office.
Excellent.
Welcome back, Trey. How was your break?
Refreshing. I feel like a new man.
Did you open that curtain yet, or is the window still closed?
The window's open, but the curtain is filtering the air. So the curtain's going to be nice and saturated with...
We don't want to do too much warfare on the neighbors whose doors I was trying to kick in right before this
The
podcast
windows
started.
are really close.
So, did I miss much other than... Did you tell your backstory on how you got lost on the way here? Or
I did not. So,
just talking about the freak party?
as I said,
Well, we came to the studio from a prior
From the lake.
drinking hangout, swimming and drinking on a hot summer day.
we're up
And then
on, up on the lake, all ready to get ripped, and then we're like, oh, we're coming to do a podcast instantly with no pre-planning, off the cuff. And
Off the cuff.
So we are spontaneous.
turns out Will has two identical brick apartment buildings side by side, look exactly like each other for those stalkers out there trying to find us.
The decoy. You have an apartment and then a decoy apartment.
And I saw Trey's car parked right behind it, and Will's car I saw right behind that brick apartment building I walked up to. And it looks exactly the same. And I was carrying 5,000 pounds of shit. I had a
Mostly
cooler,
booze.
a cooler, a case of beer, a huge 20-pound bag of ice, the big one,
The big one.
a big
22
gallon of
pounds.
water, my overnight bag, and stumble up to the second floor door, and pounding on it, and then
Pounding on a random apartment.
Will can hear me and calls me. It's like, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, I saw you walking, leaving your car, and then I went down to greet you, and you were gone. So I was like, I don't think anything good has come of his whereabouts.
But we're all here together now, and it's all fine. No arrests yet.
But the drinking buddy's office, like most offices, is
Anonymous office building. You never be able to tell,
nondescript. Yeah, it's
tell
just-
from the next one.
It's just the office.
So the last podcast, I don't know if it's alive or dead, or if you've listened to it, or if it got canned, but it had a few technical difficulties and no video, I don't think, because we're too senile and incontinent to get something like video working for our podcast
We're working out the kinks.
at this early date.
Bear with us. We're at podcast number 3. It's gonna take a little time.
So hopefully, drinking buddies out there, you might have some video of this if you're listening to it on a video platform. Probably most of you might be audio anyway, so Hopefully the audio is better than last time too. There were a lot of times when we were too far away from the mic, so sorry about that also. But yeah, you never know.
I want to hear if I can throw rocks at cheetahs or if that's a bad
To
idea.
admit it's getting better, better all the time.
So yeah, all right. Let's say you're on the plains of Savannah.
Uh-huh.
Name your top weapon options as a
You're just
primitive
walking
man.
along. All right, we're redoing the cheetah talk. Here we go again.
Well, I mean, what would you rather? What would you?
What are you gonna do? The cheetahs, you can see it 200 yards in the distance, and it's eyeing you in a little bit
So you can
suspicious
choose
way,
between a long, sharpened
which you
staff.
don't have made yet.
Oh,
You're
then-
just
then
standing
you're
there.
out of all weapon.
But there is a tree.
Wait, is there a body of water with hippopotami in it?
No, you're out in the grassland.
Damn
You're
it.
you're
I was gonna say
you're
run
out of running distance
up
from
to
a
the
body of water.
fastest, the
so
biggest,
that
baddest hippo, and
Dude, those
hop
hippos-
on its back.
That's the worst
Hop on
possible
its
choice. Those
back
hippos will rape
and
you
start
100
to
times worse than that cheetah will
Pretend
rape
you're
you.
a monkey or bird taking bugs off its back, and it will incorporate you into its family and
That's it.
protect you from
really
large
good point. If you're really
mammals.
good at picking ticks off of its back, that might work. But I think you're so huge, it's gonna be offended just by your massive
No,
presence. as
I'll
a
be real
megafauna.
real
There's an
slick
old,
going up.
fable about that where you pull the thorn out of the
lion,
predator's
yeah.
paw.
Out
You
the
go
li-
up to the
okay.
hippo and immediately start rescuing it of all
Is
of its
that,
ailments.
is
with
that
your-
Aesop's fable or Daniel the Lion's Den? I forget which one.
I think
It's Aesop's fable.
it's about a mouse.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a mouse. It's gotta be Aesop.
It can be correlated.
Okay, so I'll say cheetah. I know you're in pain. Let me help you with your
The
pain.
cheetah's fine. It's stalking you. It's just dipped under the grass from last time you looked at it.
Wait, I thought it was in pain, and I was trying to.
All right, it's sprinting you at 70 miles per hour now. You missed your chance. Do you have any weapons or plans?
I'm gonna have to try and headbutt its face with my head, with my forehead.
That's a great idea.
Turn yourself into a missile and Superman dive directly at the.
This is a great idea.
I'm going to
also.
headbutt its jaws
If
really
I said I gave
hard.
you bad advice last time, I was wrong. This is the real advice where you got great advice this time.
So I have no rocks and sticks. So I'll just.
Could have been picking up rocks all along. There's rocks all along the path.
Well, I was wondering if my guide would tell me I should throw rocks at cheetahs or if I shouldn't throw rocks at cheetahs.
You
And
had no guide, and also you've been mulched. Sorry.
So it
wait, my headbutt
leaps
missed.
in your neck and you headbutt it.
So I actually put the
You-
back of my neck right in its
You
mouth.
flew right down its throat like Will Ferrell in the dinosaur movie.
And
Land
it
of the Lost.
choked on me?
No, it swallowed you whole, and then started dragging its body off because it couldn't run with 200 pounds on its stomach.
Okay. Then I'll fight it from the
It's
inside.
really hard to fight cheetahs, I'd imagine.
So it turns out cheetahs are benevolent cats, and what we decided is there's been no cheetah attacks on humans in the wild.
That's
and the
why I
only cheetah
thought.
attacks on humans are angry cheetahs in zoos that are being abused by their trainers.
I totally believe
And
that.
other than that, cheetahs don't fuck with humans because they're too wise and cool and fast.
Is it just because there's not enough humans in their habitat?
I think it's because
No,
humans are too big.
'Cause, yeah, they're smaller than a person.
I think they only weigh like 60 pounds.
And every human in their habitat's smart enough to travel in a well-armed tribe and never
They-
be laying their necks out for cheetah food.
Are there even many lion attacks?
Yeah.
Lions will actually hunt the humans and tear them out of their tents at night.
Yeah.
Take them to their cave.
At
Whoa.
least in one case. 200
Ghosts in the
kills.
darkness.
The Lions of Savo.
Lions of Savo.
But no, I think lions kill people on the reg.
Well, you heard about the tiger in India that was eating people, so they sent hunting parties after it, and then someone shot it in the face with a shotgun, and it
Broke its jaw so it could no longer hunt any other prey than
jaw,
humans.
So it could only eat small prey, yeah, like humans. And then it had a taste exclusively for humans after that, and a deep dislike of humans, and it went on to.
From one human a week to 10 humans a day at that point.
Dang. So it took a shotgun to the jaw and could still eat humans, no problem, because they're so.
I think that might have been part of the legend that they added into the Ghost in the Darkness, because some famous hunter, I think, hunted and killed that one, and might have been the same guy who wounded it and killed it.
It was probably the same guy.
But yeah, he was on
who
it for a long
hunted
time.
the other huge
Right,
cats, and
exactly.
it was probably
the same
Teddy
one got
Roosevelt.
The Savo kills. I think the Savo kill was a biopic
Ghost in the Darkness?
Yeah, and the
Sounds like a
colonel,
biopic.
the colonel who played Val Kilmer was real and really killed those lions,
Yeah, that
and
was
the lions
definitely
were
a
real.
biopic,
But I think Remington might have been a fictional character. I don't
but
know.
it was a biopic.
Also, I think there's lots of footage of those African tourist cars, and then lions will like try to
Fuck with
attack
them,
those.
yeah.
It's like
I
if this car wasn't here, I'd be eating you
I
right
think
now.
people will get their arms ripped off a lot too that have them hang out the window carelessly.
So the
Oh,
lions
man.
are pretty aggressive. They're like if you get out to take pictures, the
Yeah,
lion's like waiting in
so
the grass, and you have to get back
Here's
to
the
the car.
difference between a cheetah and a lion: like 300 pounds of muscle on the lion, more than the cheetah, which puts them at like 2 to 3 times the mass of a human. So suddenly, that's a tasty snack instead of a terrifying adversary.
And
That
yeah,
will headbutt you in the face,
Yeah.
cheetah, every
The
time.
Missile you.
the Romans fed lots of Christians to the lions. I think it was just you put it in the Colosseum.
R.I.P.
and the lion
too soon.
There was-
is taking that as a snack.
In George Carlin, Dan Carlin's, not George Carlin, Dan Carlin. Hardcore History has one called like Painfotainment, and it's about how
I forget if I listened to
How
that or
they
not,
didn't
or if
have
it was too
entertainment.
grotesque. I might have turned it
it's
off.
really grotesque.
But I
didn't
might have
listen to the
turned it
whole
on
thing.
again
It was
and
pretty
re-listened to
gross.
it later. I
History
forget.
is hardcore.
But one of the Caesars had 100 Centaurian bodyguards versus 100 lions in the Colosseum or something like that.
I think I did turn that one off because it was too gross. I haven't heard the whole story of that one, but
Yeah,
it
definitely too
was
gross.
really raunchy.
They made a really good movie in like the 1950s or early 60s
Of the
with
Colosseum.
about the Colosseum, and it's
No
a huge
way.
epic on the scale of like Ben-Hur, except it's a lesser known one. And there's a great lion attack scene that
Oh
just
my
has
God.
way better special effects.
And
than
because they
anything
actually fed
nowadays.
someone to a lion and filmed it.
Yeah, and it's like a really brutal movie.
It was before you had to say no
It's- might
humans
be
or
called-
animals were harmed in the
It's
making of this
about
movie.
Nero. I don't know what it might be called like King
No
Nero,
way,
but
there's a
it's-
Nero
and
biopic.
it's-
The
it's
most
a really good
insane,
one.
savage emperor of all time.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
And they would have navy battles in there where they'd fill it up with water and they would have had to like build the warships inside.
And then they dump the tigers in the middle, and whichever warship they swim to, they kill everyone.
Literally, probably did that. They'll be like, let's put boats out here. Let's see how it works. Even though there's probably not a lot of space.
Every fifth battle, a cannonball goes in the crowd and decapitates
Yeah.
5 people.
They filled the water right up to the
Yeah.
brim, and the tigers were just swimming right out into the crowds.
SeaWorld has the splash zone. Coliseum has the your head might get chopped off zone.
You can't be on that plane with the cannonballs.
Glorious.
Man, what would it be like to go back to a Saturday at the Coliseum? Everyone is raging. Everyone's been raging all day long.
Exactly.
And this is the greatest entertainment. They're selling all the
So,
food and drink
it's
and
like
drugs you can buy.
Saturday afternoon, you're
It's
in
like
a huge line.
there's prostitutes walking up and down the aisles.
You're waiting to get in the Coliseum. You're just with 1,000 other hardworking Roman villagers. I guess they're all
build-
getting hammered already
Yep.
because that's.
Wake up immediately, hit the bar, and we're pre-gaming. We're going to get pre-retarded for the
We're
Coliseum
about to
today.
walk in and witness gladiators do
The
battle.
other 6 days a week I build aqueducts, but it's Coliseum Day, baby.
That'll probably make it all worth it, right?
And you just go in and cheer, and yeah,
Oh my
there's-
gosh. There's knife fights in the stands, people dying everywhere.
you're in Rome. This is the pinnacle of civilization. You're in the most civilized society on earth.
And this is what they do for entertainment. Man,
You don't expect your society to fall. You're pretty much
Rome could never fall. We're so strong.
we're the cutting edge.
Well, I'm no historian, but
You do play one on a podcast.
and Rome is still there. If you want to go there, it never fell. Rome is still there. The Colosseum's still there. You can go see it in person.
It was,
Wasn't there no running water for like 600 years after the fall of the Roman Empire because
Impressive.
they lost the ability
Literally,
to build
that was-
aqueducts?
a situation where the technology regressed,
Yeah,
and they
they
looked at
lost
these
all the
buildings in Rome,
technology, yeah.
and they're like, "How did?"
They're like, this
we
is
have no idea how to
baffling.
build
We
this."
haven't built a building over 3 stories in 500 years. What was happening here?
Well, I don't know when they built the Vatican, but the Vatican's huge, and it's right within walking distance of the Colosseum.
Definitely.
Uh, Yeah, I don't know.
That's
but
the
there was
Borgias.
definitely
That's
a
the new
period
dynasty.
where-
Michelangelo was alive, so probably like
Probably
1100,
before.
1000, 800. Probably like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was
What's
probably way
Michelangelo's
before
years? I don't know.
Michelangelo was alive to paint it.
I bet
the
it was
Sistine Chapel.
simultaneous. I bet he was painting it while they were building it.
Really?
Yeah.
And St. Peter's Basilica. It's one of.
But I don't know. I've never.
The most
I've never
massive
been. You guys have
churches.
been there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You guys
the
have
most
been to both
impressive
those?
That's probably
structure
where
over
the
there.
aliens would land.
Right in the Coliseum landing bay that's built for them.
That'd
And then
be
they'd
perfect.
step out and say, the last time we were here was a lot more interesting.
No, they landed at the Great Pyramid.
There was a lot more entertaining when,
we built this
Where-
before we
when
left.
Russell Crowe was
Yeah.
here.
Where
Why
would
haven't
they
you guys been
land?
keeping it up?
And apparently, if you are to believe the news reports, they would land in the Pacific or Atlantic coasts in the ocean.
Which
Well,
they do regularly, apparently.
You've heard about Battle LA, right? And this was like,
I actually have not heard of the details, but
well, I mean, I'm no historian, but I play one on a podcast.
It was 1945.
Yeah, it's
or
like Battle
1942.
LA, like 1940s.
It was
So,
47.
I think
No.
World
Was
War
it
II
before or
might have
after
still been
Roswell?
going on.
Okay.
So,
But it was after
were-
the bombs were dropped, so it had to be 45.
okay, so I guess the war was over. But
Yeah.
we were still on high alert. We
Because
all are
the
anti.
Cold War lasted.
We had
For
all-
yeah, till the 90s, from
Yeah.
45 to
Well, the Korea War happened, but we had all our anti-aircraft batteries active on the Pacific coast for a long time, and just this random object is over LA flying around, and
Over
pissing
LA.
us right off.
every
It's like no one knows what
aircraft
it is.
battery,
Yeah.
it was something like
We're like, what the fuck?
tens of thousands of rounds of munition were shot at it
Really?
and
They're
thought
like
to hit
open
it,
fire?
Yep.
and then they never hit
First,
anything.
they probably say identify yourself, or I don't know how their radio. work,
exactly.
But they're probably like,
You answer me, you son of a bitch.
identify, and this thing,
You don't land right now, we're gonna shoot you up.
who knows what it is? Some Japanese pilot fucking with them.
Who actually got disintegrated by the 10,000
With a spaceship the
rounds.
size of a continent.
Or a huge mothership. The
Yeah, the mothership was hovering there.
And then what? It just got away scot-free.
Yep,
No,
exactly.
nothing ever happened, and they had it in the newspapers.
Every
Battle Los
the
Angeles.
entire West Coast fired every missile and bullet they had at it to
then
no
nothing.
effect until they
It's
ran
the
out of
Predator.
bullets.
Mostly anti-aircraft
Yeah,
guns, so
Predator.
And they're like, well, I guess there's nothing more we can do about it. They're like,
we're safe now, guys.
that's
We're safe.
we're keeping that there. We liked it all along. That's our new decoration.
Yeah. That's the Battle LA story.
Yep. The aliens fired no bullets and took no damage.
No one died from. Maybe there were some friendly fire casualties, but
They shot 1,000
There were no
shells over
alien
Los
casualties.
Angeles and nothing.
They fired them straight up in the air.
I've been a huge proponent of this forever, as long as I've been a sci-fi fan. If we're going to do deep exploration in space, well, I mean, the solar sail is a good idea, but what we really need is a shipyard in space. We need to be building the spaceships in space, because then we don't have to worry about breaking the Earth's.
Well,
We don't
yeah.
have to reach escape velocity to get out of Earth's
That's
atmosphere.
a big hurdle, is just getting out of our gravitation.
So we could build these huge ships, and the other thing they'd have to be nuclear powered, like submarines and aircraft carriers, and then
Sounds
then
easy
we
enough.
Apparently, yeah, we
Would
already
have
do
pretty much
have the
infinite
nuclear
power, so-
thing.
The nuclear
Sounds like-
power thing, but the space shipyard, that one sounds a little more difficult,
Well,
but doable.
if we would mine the moon,
But you're right.
Yeah,
it-
obviously we're getting the rocks from space.
We could
Space
do such a
asteroids,
massive
meteors,
ship
moons.
if it's built and launching from like 0 or low G.
That's how you get the Super Star Destroyer
Yeah,
executor,
literally, that was
7
definitely
kilometers long.
That's
You
what
build
I
that
want
at
is-
the moon, a moon metal.
yep.
We just need a moon smelting plant.
I think Elon and
Exactly.
Bezos are.
Except
They're on it.
I think the moon is like United Nations. All the nations said we aren't going to mine this thing for resources, and we'll keep it in the night
That
sky.
we're fine burning the rainforests to
Yep.
nothing. but
So
the
that's why we're
lifeless
going to
space
Mars.
rock, that's where
That's
that's where we get environmentally friendly.
Yep, Mars.
Save this lifeless rock.
Yep. Well, I mean, all our ancestors got to look at it in the night sky for 1,000 years. So you want all your children to be able to look at it for 1,000 years in the
Yeah,
night
how
sky?
grotesque would that be if it turns into some deformed, gross thing that's not the moon anymore?
It's just like constantly farting out poison
Yeah,
gas.
it looks like a horrific
butt.
factory
A
from a
big
dystopian
butt.
future novel.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's happening
Right,
regardless.
it's the
Stop
same
fighting
moon
the progress.
Shakespeare looked at. It's
Yeah.
the same moon
You're right.
all of our sapient
All right,
brethren
let's
have
go to
seen.
Mars.
Yep, that's why we're
Yeah.
going to Mars to
Mars.
turn. We're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
destroy.
You
Not
can't even
gonna-
see Mars in the night sky. Fuck that
no,
rock.
okay. Just start mining on
Plus
Mars.
the whole asteroid field, put out a net and catch all that shit. That's probably in more manageable pieces already, since
Well, the asteroid
Asteroid
is
field-
that between us and Mars?
no, it's between Mars and Jupiter, I
So
believe.
So we do have to go to Mars first.
Yeah,
Mars is the next stop, though, on the list of
yeah, and
inter.
definitely take all
interstellar,
Mars'
intergalactic
metal and
travel.
rock for sure. And build
And Mars
spaceships.
has better metal, I would say, as not an astronomer.
Then the moon.
Yeah, because it's redder.
The moon is like smaller, first of all, and made out
Barely.
of like,
I think they're the same
Yeah.
size.
No, I think that Mars is like half the size of Earth, and the moon's like a third the size of Earth.
Exactly. I stand corrected.
But it's got like a sixth the gravity of Earth or something, and Mars has like a third the gravity of Earth because apparently, like, I don't know, mass isn't an exact
a-
gravitational
Mass is
correlation.
directly correlated to gravitational force.
but it's like some sort of inverse law where it exponentially weakens the smaller it gets.
Yes,
No,
something like
wrong.
that.
The distance is where it's inversely
well,
doubly
yeah, for the
exponentially
pull
proportional,
of
but
it,
mass and gravitational
direct-
force directly proportional. Double the
First
mass, double the gravitational force.
thing we do is turn it into a cube instead of a sphere, and then we test
Yeah.
its gravitational
I think
properties.
first we're gonna try to maybe make some sort of artificial atmosphere.
We build a big
We
dome.
build a
Well, fuck.
hydro dome.
As soon as we terrascape it into a habitable plant, we're not stealing all of its minerals and metals.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess-
we are.
Yeah, that's what we do to our habitable planet. You're right.
It'll just
Have
be
you
way
seen the
easier
huge
'cause we're there,
mines? Yeah.
And then we just send
Okay,
our,
okay,
our
you're right, you're
miners.
right.
As long as we don't give any, what do you call the people that want to save the Earth?
We don't send any tree huggers.
We
in
don't
the
send
mines.
any tree huggers there.
We make it. We turn it into a veritable paradise, and
Then
then
destroy it.
then we start over.
First, yeah, we turn it into like
Like picture a lush West Virginia
Oh,
mine ready to be taken from for the first time.
so off of that, the Benatar guy, who's the antinatalist. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. He's from South Africa. He debated Jordan Peterson. He's an antinatalist.
Yeah, he
And
also talked to Sam.
He-
Maybe?
yeah.
so he's an antinatalist. So he doesn't
Antinatalist
like
means it's better
people
to
in the
never
world.
have been born than it is to have been born. And every person you bring into the world is a crime against humanity, and we should slowly go extinct. But he puts out a bunch of counterexamples. He's like, yeah, in favor, so arguments in favor of his antinatalism. He's like, you never look at Mars and are sad that there's no people living on it, are you? And he's like, so your intuition is no, you don't, and that's one of his arguments in favor of it's better to have
But
no
you
life than
probably
to have
are
life.
actually sad there's
Yeah,
no people.
exactly.
there
And
was
then
life
as soon
on
as I
Mars.
think about it, I'm like, yeah, obviously I wish there was a lush rainforest on Mars. That'd be way better.
Yeah, we want there to
I
be
would
people on every.
Be in
every-
favor of a lush rainforest. He's like, but you can't change your mind about these. You have to go with whatever the first thing you thought was. But then it's like, and the result is that it's better to never been born. And it's like, no, I think these other things, I would revise those before I would take the conclusion of your arguments. Antinatalism is true.
Like it's
But I think the Mars one is one where I was immediately like, yeah, obviously a rainforest would have been better than lifeless space rock.
Yeah,
So yeah.
life is almost fundamentally better than non-life at a basic.
Exactly. And if we're terraforming Mars into a lush rainforest, let's change the moon so that instead of looking up at a lifeless moon, they're looking up at another Earth and they can see oceans and continents and green
the thing about that is
from each other.
the atmosphere isn't strong enough.
Well,
That's-
we're
yeah,
making
so
it.
yeah,
We have to build
okay.
atmosphere from scratch. And we
Well,
can
it still doesn't
that by
have the
capturing-
gravity pull to
keep the atmosphere.
maintain it. I think Earth would just steal. I don't know what would happen to it. I assume the Earth would steal it.
Well, the
No,
moon
I
is an
think it
important
goes off into
satellite for
space.
us, so let's let it do its thing.
Yeah, it doesn't do much for us,
You
but
want the same
it got us
Shakespeare
here. It
on?
got us to where we are, as far as we can
Evil, are
tell.
you suggesting we blow up the moon? And it does a lot of important stuff.
So-
It controls the tides.
Fun fact, I think the moon is going to escape from us, they've decided.
It moves like a centimeter away, a millimeter away
but
every year.
that's
In a million years, we're going to lose our
a million
moon.
years from now.
And it's probably way more than that.
Yeah, way more.
And then we
A
don't
million
even-
years, it'll be like a couple meters further away.
That will be an exponential or an exponential escape, I feel like.
But it's going to escape before the sun burns up the earth, right?
Yeah.
I thought
I think
it was-
that's 5 billion
I
years.
thought it escaped
Trillion.
prior to that.
I think the sun
No.
is 5 billion.
5 billion is the life of the sun left. It's 5 billion years old, 5 billion left.
Well-
right in the middle.
Have you ever heard the theory that right after we got land plants, that's when we got land animals on the planet? Like it was really close. It was like within a million years of,
I believe
like it
that.
was 200 million years ago we got something, and then or like 400 million years ago, and
I don't know.
then we got the animals like
Sounds
right after that
plausible, but
within.
I'm guessing there were animals before there was plants because they were just up on the shore and they were really mostly aquatic.
Well, why
and
wouldn't
there's
there have been plants before they were just aquatic on the shore?
Yeah, I thought we got the green algae first. That was the first life on Earth. Was
because
the
they
green
would
algae.
have had to be fully terrestrial, or they would just been right on that shoreline too, and then they're only where the water goes. But like a fly can fly,
and bats can eat flies,
yep,
Well,
out on the bare rocks before there's greenery.
and snakes can eat lizards,
but
and
a
lizards
fly
can eat
is
snakes.
much more complex than a weed.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
Fly is, many more steps removed from a.
So you're an animalist, I see.
Yeah,
You're
you
racist in
closely
favor of
identify with the
animals.
animals.
Where
I-
plants,
I did-
you have no idea how intelligent plants are. They have, every tree has at least 100 billion neurons, just like we do, and its root hairs and its neural system.
I hear we have a bunch of neurons in our gut also.
Yeah, there's lots of people's guts do their entire thinking for them,
That's true.
especially if I'm in a Vipassana silent darkness retreat and they're giving me 5 Big Macs a day.
I hear it's better to eat to live than live to eat.
Well,
I've heard that too.
You're talking about the time frame of the fish coming out onto the shore.
So,
There's
no.
aquatic plants at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying that there were probably arthropods and worms and shit coming out on land before the terrestrial plants got established, but I think it's just as legitimate the other way. Plants can grow using the air and the light and the dirt and the moisture, and they don't need any other food sources, and lots of animals
Okay.
are herbivorous.
How about this, G? Fungi are closer to animals than they are to plants.
Correct.
And the mycelial network is the basis of all the life, right? Wasn't that around
Don't know
before
about
everything
that.
else underneath the soil? The
Before
mycelium
No way.
network?
Before the fish?
I don't know. The mycelial network. Wasn't the
Good
first
question. I'm not
living...
I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but I wonder what.
But you play one on a podcast every now and then.
I wonder when animals and fungi diverged, because I feel like
Oh, I can tell you that.
100% of fungi are non-marine, and
That's what
the-
you were saying.
the oceans are where everything came from.
Yeah,
So
I get that point.
that's be a late diversion.
So
So the thing that animals and fungi diverged from was
was
probably
the stomach.
it was probably
is
like
where
a
they
protist.
diverged.
It was probably a single-celled protist, and some of them
Well,
were.
The fungi had the stomach that was just their entire environment, and they would dissolve their food outside of them, everywhere, and absorb it. And then the animals developed the actual stomach sac that would dissolve inside of the stomach sac, and
So that was the diversion. So you got two animal-like protists, and one does internal digestion, one does external digestion, and then
That's the fungi branch. From
fork in the road, and then fungi went their way, and animals went their way. But how's that work? Because animals were marine for the first
Sounds
billion
like
So they
years.
already had the stomach.
sounds like the plants came first, and then the fungi, and then the animals.
That
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. I
So
feel
we
like it
did
was.
come from the plants.
No, I don't think so. I think it was protists. So we're all protists. We're all
Single-celled
single-celled
organisms.
eukaryotes,
Yep.
and we're all living in the ocean.
EUKRYTES or something.
EU, is that what you said?
EU.
Yep. So
I
we're
know
all
what you're talking about.
eukaryotes having the good nucleus, and we're all living in the ocean, and we're all eating each other, photosynthesizing. So we're plant-like and animal-like ones.
And then we slowly evolved an eye that was just barely photosensitive at all, and we're like, we have this little thing to orient ourselves with, the tiny bit of light that this sensor can, and then slowly the eyesight got better and better, and now some things have really good eyesight.
beautiful thing.
So maybe the plants took to the land first, and then suddenly there's dead plants that need broken down. And so some of the animal-like protists take to the land and start doing external digestion, and those go on to become the fungi. And they evolve multicellularity, and then the animal-like ones, maybe the animal-like ones were already around before the fungi-like ones branched off. Who knows? All of this is lost in the sands of time anyway, and this is really gross speculation.
But they probably have a theory.
I like
that
gross
is
speculation.
Yeah, that's
more
true.
accurate than
If we had a real
We can pull it up.
If we have more
evolutionary
than
biologist on, they'd probably tell us the
10
current, the
10
current best
minutes.
hypothesis, and then the 10 reasons why they believe what they believe.
if we could pontificate for 10 minutes, we don't just go with that gut instinct and assume that's the actual thing. We need to do actual hours of research and days of research and lifetimes of research to find this out. We can't just pontificate for
Hopefully,
10 minutes and
armchair.
know the-
Hopefully, armchair science isn't our guiding light and our final answer for all of our scientific questions. Although armchair science is really fun and what we specialize here in at the Drinking Buddies.
Speaking of armchair science, I was reading a book recently, and they're talking about our great discoveries in the universe and all of the greatest astrophysics.
Sounds like a great book.
They always are very fascinating. But they said that what we're doing today isn't the offshoot of our armchair philosophizing around the campfires of our caveman brethren. It's the offshoot of our tracking footprints in the sand of the antelope,
Sick.
because that was the actual science. And when you're sitting around the campfire speculating about the universe,
You're just making up myths.
that's just the myth process.
Myth making section.
But they were, whenever they would look at the footprints and catch the antelope,
They were
that's like
using.
science.
They're using
They're still doing
evidential reasoning and
reasoning, which is what's
correcting
led us
based on evidence.
to all of our great insights and to where we are today, where we're following
That's a really
laid
sick
out in front
one.
of us. Yeah, that was a cool line from the book.
Speaking of.
What was the book? Can we hear the title or the,
Again,
the
once
author?
again.
It was by Carlo
Castaneda?
Carlo, like Ravioli. Or something.
Carlo
I don't remember his
Ravioli.
name, but it was 6 facts on physics or
So
something.
speaking of those, native people have infinite
Carlo
in touch
Ravioli.
with their environment and can track anything.
I think that's just your environment that you grew up in. And
The Predator had that. Arnold's amazing
Well, lots
commando
of-
team had
Sapiens have that ability too.
had a Native American Indian who's part of the tribe, and they'd go just into a clearing, and everyone else would be like, "I don't see shit," and then they'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, 6 men went through here, and they had 2 hostages, and then they were followed by 8 different people. And they're like, "Huh, how could you tell all that?" He's like, "Huh, the footprints was
Just
obvious to me." And you're like,
you don't even know the unconscious processing,
yeah.
where it's hard to describe how you do it.
And another one was in A Lonesome Dove. I think it was Danny Glover's character. And he's like,
tracker.
yep. The 3 horses went through here, and one of them was Jake Spoon's. and they're like, yeah, I think Jake Price got his horse robbed, and he's like, Jake's a big boy. His horse makes a certain mark when he's on it, and Jake was on that horse.
Nice. Literally, but I'm sure that's actually possible.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
someone to know
Oh,
the
definitely.
rider, to how someone rides their
And,
horse
like,
on the track.
For sure.
Unbelievable. And did you see the Octopus Teacher movie Uncle Paul's been
No.
recommending? Well, that guy learns to do that in the middle of the ocean in a kelp forest bed.
He learns to track one single octopus.
But I think he was also heavily influenced by those African hunter-gatherer tribes. I think like 30 years ago he did a documentary on them and saw them just seeing things that were invisible to everyone else and tracking them.
The octopus guy was
So
one
that
of those?
inspired him to try it out for himself.
It's great stuff. Like, yeah, if you're spending a lot of time around like a pack of indistinguishable animals, you know
Yeah.
all their personalities,
Exactly.
and you're like, well, this is what he's doing. This is his path.
And that's what happens with identical twins you spend enough time with. Like, we're going to a wedding next weekend.
Or yeah, like whenever I see these guys, I probably won't be able to tell them apart.
Exactly,
I'll be
yeah.
like,
But there's
I know nothing.
identical twins, and then by the end of the weekend, they're clearly distinguishable from each other.
Yep. I won't. It's hard to remember the names of people who look the same.
So I assume the rehearsal dinner's at the same location. I don't know if we want to talk about all the wedding details, but
We can probably plan this off air, Trey, if you're just doing logistics
Okay.
of the wedding next weekend.
yeah, we can do that off air. But there's this book called Awakening Spirit by some guy who was trained by natives of the land. And he's talking about his training, and he's just this little kid, and he's like, sit by this river and just count all the life you see. And then he's sitting there for like hours, and then he's like, yeah, there's like, he's like, just non-aware and doesn't count it. He's like, there's nothing here. And then the guy comes in and is like, well, there's like a possum in that tree right there. There's this bird over here in this tree. And he immediately calls out 20 different life forms within like 10 feet of the guy. He's like, just not aware.
I'm trying to do that more and more every time I go out. Just try to recognize the biodiversity and all the different species. And every time, like, there's 1,000 different species, I don't know what they are. And I wish I was a expert in every type of plant and animal. Cause I'm like,
You
wow,
wish you could literally have the encyclopedic knowledge of all
exactly.
of
The
those.
Terrence McKenna, when he is ripped on 10 grams of magic mushrooms, walking through the forest and points at something, and then the voice just announces to him the scientific name of every organism he points at.
Sounds
But-
like he had a Latin spirit in his head then if he's
They're-
telling him the scientific name.
Those are crazy
Exactly.
spirits. But speaking of that, on our canoe trip, you were calling out everything. You saw the green heron, which I had never had identified for me
Yeah.
before, and then the mud piper or something.
Yeah, the sandpiper was just a guess, but it was smaller than any sandpiper I've ever seen. But it's like the typical ocean wading bird that has a perfectly round head and a really long straight bill and just runs in the surf back and forth eating things. There was one that was the size of a sparrow, the exact same shape, and it ran the whole way across the dam on the rocks. And it was
I
hopping,
can't believe I missed that. I was
hopping
right
around
at
the
the
neighbor's
dam.
yard, and then they had this invisible fence like Sarah has fencing off her Pachysandra, and it tried jumping through that and got knocked off.
No way.
And then it was like shaking its head, and then it ran the other way in the yard.
I was
But it
literally
could
the
fly
person
also. But it was really, yeah. If
who
you're,
didn't notice any of the life. I was just rowing,
Gotta-
oblivious to
yeah.
it. But it so bounced off.
there were all kinds of dragonflies and damselflies
Oh, I
too
saw
that were
the
amazing.
dragonflies
Yeah.
at that one spot.
Those were delicious. But yeah, when we first moved in the first year, there was a green heron that nested like one house down from us, and we saw the babies like growing up and running around with them. And so I looked it up then, and that's when I found out about the green heron, the night heron, and the blue heron.
3 native heron species to Ohio.
Yeah.
Fun
Is
fact, I
it the
should have
great
heard.
night heron or?
No, there's only one great heron. It's the great blue
And
heron.
The great blue heron might be the worst heron of all the herons.
Definitely the worst. But more importantly, the night heron is the penguin bird that we fed all those gobies to at the
It can eat
Catawba Island State Park tour,
20 gobies in one sitting.
and still fly away when we're trying to catch
I
it.
don't know. Could it fly away or did it
we
stay on the
tested
dock?
it. We know we scientifically tested that, and it flew away, and its wing dipped down, touched the water, and it made it away.
I don't know if it did.
It did. I was there.
I think a muskie came out of the lake and ate it, or a walleye.
No, it was bigger than any muskie.
A walleye, then.
And then speaking of the
Muskies are bigger than
encyclopedic
walleye.
knowledge, like Terrence McKenna, I was at the Gorge Park where we all went the other day, just like this earlier this week, a couple of days ago. Coming back, 2 people walking back on their hike were holding a mushroom that they had picked, which is kind of rare to
Yeah.
see people playing with mushrooms since
Yeah.
they're kind of dangerous and you don't pick them to eat them unless you're very, very aware of them.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the psychedelic properties, but I was just like, huh, that's.
Did
I
you
wanted
ask
to
them about
compliment
it?
that
Yeah.
Mushroom and say
What's
is
going
that,
on? Yeah.
or what's the occasion you picked it? But I didn't say anything to them. But they were definitely carrying it and like they had found something cool.
Well, I
It seemed
think
like
the
I
good
don't know
news
how.
is that it's hopefully spreading out thousands of spores everywhere they go. So hopefully, the more they traverse it around the world, the more
But
spots it has to land and germinate next time.
they were definitely touching it and passing it back and forth. I don't know if any
Licking
are
their
dangerous
fingers.
just by skin-to-skin contact to it.
Good question.
was a
I don't know. I
fun
would
guy.
say no, but don't quote me on that.
I didn't pick any fungi when I was out on my hike, and
You were
I
jealous.
wish, I wish I knew how to identify them. And we had that cool hike with Josh and you, where you were touching all the mushrooms we found.
I
Yeah.
hear one of the best ways is cutting off the cap and taking a spore sample and judging
See
it
if it's black
by
or
the
purple.
color of the spores,
Cutting off
yeah,
what?
the shape of the spore sample, just like the cap.
I gotta take a leak, guys. I'll be back.
And then you just
My turn.
drop it on some paper and pick it up, and it leaves like a fingerprint, but it's of the spore sample. Have you ever like looked underneath them? They have like those veins, kind of like,
Well, yeah, okay, of the cap,
yeah,
just like the fan, kind of.
yeah, like the fan, and you just drop it face down, and depending
So you're dropping
how,
the full cap.
yep,
It's like a,
depending on the development of it, it could leave the spore sample. I guess the veil would have to be off of the cap already, though. They'd be too immature otherwise. But the breaking of the veil is good for.
well, that's what makes it psychoactively mature, or.
Depending on the, I don't know, all the.
Well, what's a spore sample look like? You drop it and it leaves just a color or a dusting or an
It
imprint?
leaves a dusting, but it's the imprint. You know how like there's the veins. It looks just like the underside of it, but like a fingerprint.
Will it be a different
it's-
color?
it's like
Will it be
one-dimensional,
purple or like
It'll
just white?
yeah, it'll be
depending
different
on what
colors depending on the spores, and then that's another way to identify it because they all don't have the same spore colors. Maybe some have multiple spore colors based on the time of year it is.
And it was
Oh,
crazy.
there goes
Some
the prohibition.
people we
picture.
know had so many different species of shrooms. I'm gonna take a leak too, so I can fix that.
It's pretty.
All right, so the
Andy.
spore sample is lay the head of the mushroom on the piece of paper, and then underneath it leaves a stain of a
Yep.
certain color.
Yep.
And then based on the color, that's
Well,
a
I
big
mean,
giveaway.
It leaves like a fingerprint look
It's not going to tell you the exact species,
based off.
but it'll
the-
tell you a range of species and like possible genus and specifically whether it has psilocybin in it. And those are the ones you look for.
You want to use a cumulation of all your information, like the time of year, where you found it, what color it is, how big it is, what shape it is, how many spots, what color the stain is, what shape the stain is.
What are those called? Dichotomous key. I have a Paul Stamets book about mushroom finding, and it uses dichotomous keys. So there's a bunch of features, and then once you get enough of them, it narrows it down to one particular type or another. I don't know if it goes particular species. That's pretty specific. But like the psilocybe-containing mushrooms have the black or dark blue or purple. I forget
Really?
the
That's good
range
to know.
of colors.
Just to know the range of the colors.
Yeah,
Of
but those ones, I'm pretty sure that there's no poison mushrooms that overlap with that spore sample. But definitely don't go eating mushrooms in
I'm
the
gonna go
woods,
test
ladies and
that on
gentlemen.
your
Never,
word.
never eat any mushroom you pick yourself in the woods unless you're with
Okay.
Paul Stamets.
I'll bring a gallon of water with me, and if I start to feel faint, I'll just chug a gallon of water and hopefully puke up all the poison and Otherwise, I'll die in the woods alone.
There you go.
Maybe I'll see a cheetah and he'll give me some aid on.
Your spirit cheetah will come and give you mouth to mouth in CPR.
That'd be a crazy trip. That's the trip I want to go on. The out of body cheetah saves your life.
You'd have to be in Africa.
You think?
I don't know.
Depends how to get the trip with, you know?
So my cousin Bobby was in town on Sunday. It was the Sunday after Jim Beach, so we just did the Elysium Mysteries. 7 straight days of drinking. I was taking a couple days off. Try to get back to
I think everyone
baseline.
has to- I think it's recommended after the Elysium Mysteries just to
Yeah.
Integrate.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to get
Incorporate.
5 days of lifting this weekend. My body's in no condition to do that. So Bobby's there on Sunday. We're coming down, and we saw these woodpeckers. We canoed down to the pond, and there's these huge woodpeckers that look kind of like blue jays. And so we're talking about different woodpecker species, and I guess the largest one in the Americas is extinct. It was like an 18-inch woodpecker. No one's seen it in the wild since like 1930. It's been declared extinct. Lived in the southern forest. We're talking about that. And then Bob was talking about mountain lions or cougars in Ohio. And he was talking about how he lived in Deerfield, how they used to have sightings of them where people would say they saw them. And then one time he saw these tracks around his house that were huge, like bigger than dogs, but they didn't have the claws in the track. So cats have retractable claws. So he was thinking they were cougars. And then one of his other friends saw one and got some pictures of it. But his Deerfield house burnt down at about that same time, and the camera was inside it, so they lost their priceless cougar photos that they got of cryptozoology in Ohio, where cougars have been extinct for like 100 years, and there's no cougars on the East Coast at all except in Florida. But people have sightings
Well, what
of
about,
occasional stragglers, because any population is going to be trying
Well, what
to
about
push out
Virginia
into the
and
surrounding areas. Yeah, Nittany lions have been extinct in Pennsylvania for just as long.
Okay.
There's none according
Well, they
to
say
modern
extinct.
science. Yeah, exactly. No, so extirpate is the term where they're extinct in the state, but they exist somewhere else still alive. So the West Coast cougars are still doing fine,
So
but the
they're-
East Coast
what's
ones
the
are all
term?
dead. Extirpated.
So they're extirpated.
Extirpated
supposedly?
from Ohio and from
They're
Pennsylvania.
extirpated like Bigfoot's extirpated.
No, Bigfoot's extinct.
Bigfoot's
We all know
dead.
that.
There's a Bigfoot right here. 800 years ago, you see you walking in the woods ungroomed, you'd be hairy as hell.
Wearing bearskin clothes.
Oh, there I saw one of those
Oh, we
Bigfoot.
got shot on sight.
Yeah. How old is that story?
As old as mankind.
Every one of the Native American tribes had a word for him.
So, yeah, I think that's just one of those stories that got passed down by generation for so long that it may be extinct, but we still are passing the story down that is no longer applicable.
I don't know. Maybe I'll stop telling the story.
I'm going to keep propagating the story that 800 years ago, G would have been a Bigfoot and shot on sight.
It's a really good one.
Speaking of that, though, I haven't seen very many interesting tracks in the wild or cool
Really?
predators in the wild. I've never been like, oh, what is that footprint?
I feel like I've seen deer, bear, and big dogs. I don't know if they're domestic dogs or wolves.
Yeah, I think I spent too little time looking at footprints and don't really recognize them. But when I was like 5 years old, I was at Grandpa Sam's house, the 3 acres that Uncle Mick has now. And we went up to like past the forest to the farthest point closest to the wall house at Uncle Mick's house. And before there was a forest, and behind that it was like a field. And we went out and looked at a huge dump in a bunch of area knocked down like crop circles, and they said it was a bear dump
It was
out there on Grandpa Sam's
not in
property,
the forest, but just in that
right
area.
past the forest on like
Well,
there was weeds and
well, there's
blackberry
like a huge
bushes.
farm there now. If that's the.
Well, the whole forest is deforested on Uncle Mick's lawn, like past, if you're at his house and you walk past his garage, a little bit towards the right, towards the road.
So it's close
So, like,
to his house?
No, it's as far away from on his property as possible and towards the wall house. But it's just, yeah, it was past the forest and there's weeds back there. We went and looked at it and they said it was bear shit. So that was 1990. But I think black bears were always in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania never lost them, and they still have black bear season.
Oh, for sure.
And in Ohio, they're listed as like critically endangered because they're just now pushing back in. But they were on the list of back alive.
I bet they start to flourish because I hear the evasive hog population is in Ohio, and I hear it's all the way through Ohio already.
It's already run its course? Or?
It's already like all the way to Lake Erie, Ashtabula, and
Shut
shit.
up.
And so
You heard that?
You can hunt. I think there's just no limit on.
You still have to have a hunting license, I
Yeah,
think.
you just need a
You
license.
can kill as many as you
There's a
want.
limit on.
Last I heard, they're in the county below Tuscarawas County, which is below Stark County. So if they made it the whole way to, that's like 2 years ago. So
I'm sure they go that fast.
yeah, they're probably the whole way through the whole.
Well, I don't think they've seen him at the lease, and the lease is in Tuscarawas.
Yeah.
County.
That's what
Exactly.
I was imagined.
And that's the most prime hog habitat possible. So if they would ever be anywhere.
Flourishing.
But do they have any trail cams up? I think they're
What a-
nocturnal.
What a good time. Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
They just sit in like
Yeah.
mud. I'd love to get one during the day when it's just sitting in the mud pie and you just go shoot it. You know,
Yeah,
while
I
it's
think you have to have a
sleeping.
trail cam probably to see them. But do they have any up there?
You track
'Cause
them by smell.
we'd probably be seeing cougars down at the least too.
I
That's
wonder
another
what their trail
tracking
cam
ability.
situation is.
I
Trail
just
cams are awesome.
I actually have a trail cam for looking at mice in my basement.
It's something that was motion activated.
Yep.
Because people in PA have trail cams and they post awesome pictures.
And they haven't
They
seen
see-
any
they
Bigfoots
see
yet either.
bears, They
Yeah.
post bears, huge deer.
Yeah.
What do you think of like the Great Adventure? Would you like the Edge? Would you want to
Oh my
have to
God.
do battle against a bear in the
Wait,
wild?
Speaking of greatest movies
What
of
do you
all
mean?
time,
Great adventure.
Well, we're talking
one
about all
below
the-
Gladiator is
seeing
the Edge.
tracks and these wild species and the black bear that's been in PA forever.
What do you
So
mean, great
are you
adventure? Would you
saying-
want to crash your biplane in the deepest Alaskan wilderness and pond and survive and swim to
Yeah,
shore?
are you saying
So
I
you
have
wanna
to
have to-
crash my biplane, or do I just walk out into the great Canadian wilderness
Crash your
and,
biplane.
Something-
and hunt
yeah.
bear?
This is
Or-
something that's unmatched. You have to lure. You have to hunt for your food.
I have to.
You're
lose-
actually just going on a 3-hour tour and then you wind up on a deserted island
I'm
for
not
indefinitely
talking-
until you
I
get
would
off.
lose my shirt and my
You
pants
pay a
on the way
tour
there.
guide to aim your shotgun
You'll get
towards
to lose your
Okay.
shirt and your pants
You
if
have
you
to
want,
light
but
a
it's random.
fire,
I wanna
or
lose
you're
my
gonna
shirt and my
freeze to
pants.
death. You
That
gotta-
goes without saying. But do you want to be on the adventure when you do it?
I'm talking life or death. You gotta get this fire started. You gotta.
Cool.
Oh, I'm in for that all
Hopefully
day,
we
every
didn't
day.
watch that Firestorm video right before this one, which we did.
Yeah, so you want to find some good rock, I think,
But is that
Some
something you want to
flint.
avoid, or would you be like,
and some
"Ah,
steel. Have a
here's
steel
the
knife.
moment. Let's embrace the moment."
No, I'd embrace that for sure. That's the only way to get through a bad trip is to embrace it and
You
not to
definitely
cry
Definitely
and
if you
say
were
I want
in
out
the-
of it.
If
You
you're
have
in the
to-
great journey, you would embrace
If
it.
you're in hell, there's one way out
Most
and it's
people
through.
die who are out in the wild.
Shame.
They die of shame because they're like, "How did I get myself here?" They don't embrace it at all.
Is that so?
Shout out to The Edge, the second greatest movie ever after Gladiator.
It's a really good one. It's a really good one.
So first thing you do is you lure the bear. Or do you wait till
Really?
like
You just
do you wait
say
till
it
like
to
half your
everyone?
squad's dead and then you try and lure
That's
the
what I
bear?
was
I don't
shouting
think
during
you
Predator
were
when
anything. I think
we
it
got
was-
to the end and Arnold's trying to lure the bear. I'm like, he's luring the bear. He's luring the bear.
Come
He
get
set it up
me.
perfectly and lured the bear.
But you literally have to switch the dynamic. You can't just be the prey. You have to literally lure the bear so that you
Yeah.
become the predator, or else it's just gonna immediately kill you.
Shooting it with arrows, knowing you can't kill it, and then lure it over to
You
you.
have to, yeah, or else you're just always the prey. You can't run from something that you have to turn the tables on it. I think was the philosophy of that.
Definitely.
Another thing on tracking. So you know how much you weigh, and you can
Yep.
judge the depth of your footprint assume that's about so much weight, and then extrapolate from there on the weight of whatever you're following.
But every separate space you could ever step will have different depths of moisture
you
and
step
density and
next to that
water.
other
Step right on
footprint.
top of it. Maybe. I
You
guess.
ruin your tracks.
That's the only way. It would be the
Who
same
the fuck
situation.
just walked over all of our bear tracks? You ruined.
I was judging the depth most accurately, right where they.
Okay.
No, we don't know
So-
what's your depth and what's their
So
depth.
it's either a 100-pound bear, it's a 900-pound bear, but we're
You
gonna keep
doubled it.
going.
You're stepping in a hole made by a bear.
Shit. That's why I'm not a tracker.
Well, you ever read that book Hatchet? I think we read it in like second grade.
Yeah.
It's about
I read in sixth grade.
some kid that crashes his biplane.
Shout out to everyone I
Spoilers.
lied to on that Miss Lash English test and told them there was an alligator.
That's
Continue
a
the
really
joke.
good burn. Really, that shows how genius you are that you could deceive your entire class into failing an English test.
Motivation to all you kids out there who want to read the book. You get to give the wrong answers.
Because everyone else in your class is going to be asking you what happened.
No one else is reading it.
And then you get to tell them whatever you want and they'll
Make
put
it
it right
a
on the
lot
test.
more gratifying that you get to see that tangible result of everyone else failing
I can't
around
think
you.
of any better motivation to read the chapter than to say exactly what didn't happen.
Probably only need to read it to do that.
So I think it was like second grade when we read it, or third grade or something. But I didn't know I've already had watched The Edge. Like it was already like my favorite movie. So I was like,
in kindergarten 5 times with us.
so it was like, wow, this book is a lot like The Edge, except a lot more boring. It's about a kid with a hatchet.
Boring.
There's not enough bear attacks.
Nice. I've been rewatching all the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And Lincoln's 5 years old. I'm like, I watch all these when I was his age, I feel like.
Literally, yeah.
And
Lincoln, I'm sure loves them.
And Lincoln watched either the Red Sonja or one of the Conans. Like last year when he was 4, but this year he doesn't want to have anything to do with them, so hasn't been watching them.
Well, the
We're
second Conan was a lot more
like-
PG and
Yeah.
fantastical.
The second Conan's definitely on a different level.
And I remember watching that when I was like 4, and I was like, wow, this is my favorite movie. He ripped the horn out of that rhinoceros's head. Epic.
What was the one where they had like a huge battle in like a natural coliseum that had rocks on all sides and they were all on horses? Was that one
Red
of the?
Sanja?
Maybe
Might
it
have been
was.
episode, the first Conan.
Might have been Sanja or I don't
I've
know.
never seen Sanja. Did you see Sanja, Trey?
I never saw Sanja.
I don't know either.
The first one, he's definitely a fighter in the Coliseum for a
Feel
while
like it was.
until he wins his
I feel like
freedom.
it was number 2
Was it outdoors?
outdoors.
That might have
Well,
been number 2.
in the first one, he's just a slave
He's
and
literally in a
he's-
little pit.
fighting in the death pit. Yeah, it's just a hole in the
Yeah,
underground
death pit,
fighting.
and then he got to have all the women lovers he needed.
Just-
Well,
So
they
those
they
are-
wanted him for his
Arnold,
breeding,
and they're like,
his large family breeding.
Yeah, that's how you get 10 generations of Conan breeding.
But if
The
it
horse
was,
that wins the race gets to be the stud, and the rest get turned into glue.
so we no longer let people fight to the death. But if we did, how many bars do you think would have a fighting ring underneath them where you can go in and watch humans fight each other to
Like
the?
every boxing match, every UFC match is allowing people to fight to the death, and
Okay.
if they die,
How
they
come
die. If
that's
they
not
don't,
more
they don't.
popular then?
Well,
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure the most legit fighting ever. And they do call the fight before they die, but the
Sometimes.
tap out is pretty much you're tapping out, but this would be, I would kill you if you're not tapping out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
And
like
people die in
that.
boxing.
I completely endorse the tap out.
Yeah,
But
that's why they tap out, because
It's-
it's better
they
to tap
call
out
the
than die.
fight, Or
Yeah.
else it would. That's the inevitable conclusion of the fight is where it's going.
Yeah.
One person would kill the other one. And you could every bar could have a non
Yeah,
Fight
match
club.
in the basement.
They
could
have
the
just
fight
fights.
clubs.
The
Why
regular
aren't there more
fight club.
fights and
Because
I don't know.
It's
I'm not
real.
in the club. I'm
Being
not
hit in the
fight club.
face is horrific.
yeah.
horrific or gratifyingly pleasurable.
Horrific.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess some people find enlightenment through fight clubs.
Yeah.
Chuck Palahniuk. Key.
Getting
Shout out to you, Chuck.
punched as hard as you can.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Do you ever read the book Fight Club?
No, I haven't.
I
Is that
haven't,
on
but
your
I feel like that
to-read
would.
book?
Yeah, it is on my to-read list.
Boy,
I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know what my true read list looks like anymore. It's too long.
it
Can't
is on the
even pretend
list.
to add more books to it.
It is on the list. It's just at the very, very bottom of the list.
It's a little bit above that. It's way above that because I can think of a million books I would read after that one.
Wait, so you have a million books on your to-read list?
No, on
Yeah,
my
Fight
to read
Club's at the
after. to
They're
my,
on your to-read list.
No, they're onto my read after Fight Club list.
Okay. I was gonna say you have
Definitely.
a really good list.
My list is really good. That's why I can't add more to the to read portion of it.
Well, most of the books I read aren't on my reading list.
You must have a library still. Every time you walk into those, I see 5 books I wish I read.
Yeah. I went
Exactly.
last time I went to the library. I had a list of books I wanted, but of course, no library ever has any book you want. So I just went to the
Nonfiction, new
and
release.
I got my 6 facts about physics and a book
Sick.
about Bayesian statistics.
Sick.
That
How's
I
that
did
going
too.
for you? Nice.
You got made fun of a lot for it.
I took it to the beach.
You got beat
but
up
didn't-
once.
Didn't finish it,
You got beat up. They tapped out in time.
so I'll have to return that one.
Can you tell me what Bayesian statistics are? It's like statistics but more beige and like.
Well, I guess normal statistics, there's a clear difference, and Bayesian statistics is, I think, based on probability, whereas regular statistics assumes
The odds.
that, for instance, if there's a 50-50 chance of something happening, that's one form, whereas if what are you going to do tomorrow, there is much more open-ended. And Bayesian statistics somehow lends itself to that open-ended form more than the inevitable odd stacking where you know there's a definitive outcome. Is my drinking buddy's definition of
You're not a
Bayesian
statistician, but you play one on a podcast.
Bayesian statistics has 2 portions. One is your prior probability for something, and then the other one takes into account new evidence. And then based on the new evidence, it conglomerates them statistically so that you're constantly, every fact or new piece of information you come up with gives you a new statistical probability. So it's constantly being updated based on the new information. And I don't know what's Bayesian about that, but that's my impression of Bayesian statistics is you have the prior probabilities and then every new piece of evidence re-adds in
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a good explanation of it for sure. That's how it
recalculates
works.
it.
But I mean, there's a statistics class you would take in school, which I think, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if that would, I think Bayesian statistics is a little different.
I think
than-
regular statistics is more static. It gives you one set of facts and then says, given that, what's the probability of something else happening? So this is just like a continuation of it.
Yeah, it sounds
Because
like
it has the initial probability and then it's just incorporating all other data
sounds
to give you constantly updated probabilities.
infinitely more complex and open-ended, and some things have a definite probability, like what are the odds if I flip 52 cards,
Yeah,
one of the
for
cards
sure.
is going to be a king. It's
Yep.
like
That
1 out of
has-
13.
Yep.
But if I say, what are the odds Luke comes back from this blizzard tonight? And the odds are
Yeah.
9,038 to 1 or something.
Never tell me the odds.
Like,
3PO.
where would you want to devote your attention to, the podcast or to the sitcom? And then what's going to pay off more? What's going to have the better chance of succeeding? Bayesian statistics could weight those probabilities.
Ooh, savage. You should
Sounds
probably
like
read
a
that
lot of
book
calculation.
next.
So
I wonder if 3PO was using Bayesian statistics.
he was using
Regular?
something.
Original?
He was
'Cause
using
he
something.
he always has statistic.
He was just making up numbers to.
Yeah, see, he was like, let me bullshit this stupid.
I am a translator. I'm not a statistician, but I can tell you
Yeah.
random numbers.
You are an interpreter droid, are you not? I'll give you the statistics on anything you want to know.
So after Gym Beach, I did a 3-day cleanse where I didn't drink at all.
And you
I
rewatched
watched a
Star Wars?
savage number of movies, and one of them was Space Odyssey 2001.
Nice.
And Hal was the most incredible character ever. It's
Genius.
just the super AI that everyone's always been worried about happening. And he
Came
is
out in '68 before anyone.
19
Wait, it was made in 60. I was gonna. That was my first question.
1969, Stanley
68,
Kubrick.
69.
But it was also written by Arthur C. Clarke, so it was the best science fiction writer ever.
Like, what, 50 years before that?
Simultaneously
didn't
gets the
know
writing credit on
Arthur
it.
C. Clarke was on that. too.
Yeah,
I
he
just heard
wrote-
Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Stanley
Arthur C.
Kubrick.
Clarke and him got equal writing
It's
credits, I
hard to
think.
take a crazy science fiction book and make it into an epic movie in 60.
But the robot, though, was the best character, and he was so amazing.
Does he have
and
any motivation?
He was so human and was just buddying up to everyone as like, hey, Will, can I ask you a personal question about your life? And then the humans, well, I don't want to do too many spoiler alerts on a
But they were
70-year-old
like,
movie.
oh, this guy won't hurt us, or
Also, there was literally a scene where you and the robot played chess, and the robot raped you. But he was so kind and generous about it. He's like, Will, I think you messed up there. If you went here, it would have worked out better. But now, checkmate in 2 moves, and they're like, game over. Meanwhile, they're on like a 5-year fly to
and
Jupiter,
they need this AI to.
where the AI is doing everything, and they're fighting boredom, inconceivable. They're playing the robot chess. But the robot gets a little too human and a little too conscious and a little too jealous, and then
Yeah, does the robot get cabin fever before?
starts.
the
Yeah, the robot immediately gets cabin fever.
That was the
The
robot's
humans are
motivation.
fine. The humans can. They're like, this could be a 10-year journey. I could easily sit and watch TV for 10 hours a day and pilot the ship. And the robot's like,
Why won't you play chess
I don't
with
think.
me,
I don't
Garrett?
think this is working.
Why won't you?
This is not working out.
I noticed you're working on your Drinking Buddies podcast, Garrett, instead of playing me
Garrett,
at chess.
can't you watch this episode of Always Sunny with me? I could use someone watching it with me. I could use another pair of
Flourishing
eyes.
If you would do this with your time.
So yeah, Hal cracks up immediately.
Execute.
Hal gets cabin fever. That's Space Odyssey 2001 in a nutshell. 1-sentence summary. Hal gets cabin fever.
Glorious.
Hal can read lips, and Hal is a sophisticated
Oh
bot.
my God.
Just cracked.
I can't believe they blundered that hard. They knew it was an infinitely intelligent robot. They can spin this capsule around. They could have easily faced away from him.
That would have been too
But they
suspicious,
faced
though.
it towards
They had
him.
to make it look natural. Like, hey, we're just hanging out over here.
And then it shows the scene, and he's zooming in on your mouth, while they're having the conversation.
But
Oh my
I
God.
think, not to spoil it too hard, but the humans eventually get the best of Hal.
And
Man
the-
versus man's creations.
Wait, doesn't the spaceship crash into a black hole or sun or something? Spoilers.
Definitely.
And he's
It was
reborn.
Almost the exact ending as Interstellar.
But
Interstellar was
50
It was the
another.
exact. It was the exact ending, actually.
Except I think they have better robots in Interstellar.
They had. It was literally Hal in Interstellar for
Except
sure.
he was a better robot that didn't crack up at the
wasn't
first
Interstellar,
sign.
like super trippy at the end.
Yeah.
Didn't it get like?
It was just as trippy as Space Odyssey,
Yeah, you
I'd say.
can't get trippier than Space Odyssey.
I think they
It was
both go through
equally-
wormholes, and they
It was the
both
exact ending.
they both do smoke a bunch of
What was
DMT, and they
It
go.
was
into-
identical.
It was like a
Literally.
floating fetus. And
It was for sure the exact experience I had smoking salvia in 2007, the 80 times X.
Whenever he got
You just go through
drugged by the
you
CIA
just
in
go
that one
through you
experiment.
just go through a wormhole of geometric shapes, hit 1,000,000 miles per hour for 10 straight minutes, and they literally put 10 straight minutes of going through a wormhole in the movie.
With
for which one? Both of them.
yep.
Yeah.
And I assume they had the best
For
sound
sure,
effects.
Interstellar is amazing. Interstellar is a great film, and Space Odyssey is a great film too. It just
Agreed.
is from a different era.
Agreed. Definitely.
Good times.
Man, Interstellar. I don't know. I think I've heard rumors that both of them have a lot of plot holes.
Plot holes or physics holes?
But definitely Interstellar
holes
had a
just
lot of
watch-
plot holes.
You just watched Space Odyssey. Did it have any plot holes?
No, I don't think so.
So first of all, it starts off in the Savannah Plains before Homo sapiens
Exactly.
are around, and
Right.
it's the best special effects.
Perfect.
movie
It's a
in the
perfect
last
tribe.
60
Remember
years.
Atlanta Lost Chaka? It was a whole tribe of Chakas,
Yeah.
and they were just humans
And no
playing the first.
Speaking of lost
Hominids.
civilizations and pyramids, no one knows what happens when sapiens look like that, or what influenced them
Yeah. So
with their tech to make the also whenever the sapien brain increased in mass exponentially. We don't know what happened there. Maybe it was
Might have been an obelisk.
we looked exactly the same, except we had worse posture and knew nothing about grooming and didn't have clothes. So were furrier and we were more hunched over.
and
My
we like
posture's
to-
pretty bad.
Okay, so just like I said, we have Bigfoot right here, except imagine him with less
In the
clothes
woods.
on and hairier and never having groomed himself once.
Imagine him knocking on your apartment door.
So pretty much this
unexpectedly
guy
with
right
a
here.
case of beer.
5 minutes ago. There's an amazing scene during. So there's 3 episodes. The first one is the hominid on the African savannah scene. There's an amazing scene
And there's
about.
great music in that.
Yeah, classical music, the whole movie. I think it probably won the Oscar for the score for sure. But there's a leopard killing one of them, and Lincoln was there. We got to see that scene. It's like, yeah, this is our history of the world, baby. Giant cats
It's been
killing
brutal,
sapiens.
and it's less brutal than it's ever been right now.
I can't
Definitely.
believe
Hardships.
we domesticated cats and wolves after all that shit. Or who got the last laugh?
Or did cats and wolves domesticate us?
Exactly. I don't know. I think
We're
wolves
literally-
hunting got a lot easier and they got fed a lot more.
Did we domesticate grain, or did grain domesticate
Yeah,
us?
exactly. We've been grain. Everything's using us, including the AI robots, which we're slaving away to build, and we have been the cog in the
Yep.
machine, helping everyone along.
That is
So
definitely
we're
been
we're
the story
gonna
of humans, is
deforest
that we serve.
100,000 square miles of land per year and plant only that plant
So,
in
yeah,
their place.
The
What
trees
kind of
that
Terminator
domesticate
robots
us,
would do that for one species?
Yeah, it's like if you looked at us, they'd be like, "Who programmed these people to be grain operators?" And they'd be like, "They did that themselves." It's like they're meticulously clearing this land.
And then you hand them a beer, and you're like, "This is what we make out of grain." They're like, "Ah, it makes sense
How
now."
many of these can you make a year? Not one, double. Up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers.
Yes.
We have a good time though.
Domestication. Oh, okay. Here's something weird. The first time I observed this was in Pennsylvania last summer. It was right before I went and talked to Uncle Joe. I was walking by on the road. I saw a bumblebee
Just last summer.
last summer. Instead of going into the flower and getting the nectar and getting pollen on it, it went down the outside of the flower and just rolled in through the went down the outside of the flower and just rolled in through the side. So it snuck in, got the nectar it wanted without going through the pollen chambers and getting pollinated.
Oh, wow.
And I think this
That's a
this meme has been traveling the bee world because this summer I saw a honeybee do it in my yard, and I got some footage of
No
it because
way.
everyone now carries a spaceman phone. So if they see a alien invasion, they can immediately record it. So I saw a honeybee do this to a ton of flowers, and then yesterday, in my front yard, I saw a bumblebee doing it again. So the bees might be saying, "Fuck you guys, we're never pollinating any of your flowers again."
We're gonna
And
steal
they're
what we
still
want.
stealing all the nectar. They go down outside the
Dang.
flower, drill in. I've never seen or heard of anything like this before. This is breaking science, maybe. This
Yeah,
is
that
a
is.
regular
You need
bee
to
behavior.
publish a thesis paper on that.
But I do have video footage of it, so I can at least back it up with this one honeybee doing it 3 times.
We could definitely publish a paper if I go for my biology degree. I'm using you as you'll be a co-author, G.
But-
It's gonna have to do
You're
the
gonna
hard
be
way
a
and go for his
co-author.
own
But by
biology
this time,
when we
it's
have a
gonna
biologist.
circumnavigate the globe. Every bee's gonna be doing this every time. They're gonna be like, "Remember when bees used to go in flowers? That's gone."
Yeah, well, that's how
They don't do this
flowers
at all.
were pollinated.
Yeah, that's how we have flowers.
But this meme just instantly
where
got
what
it all.
it's just safer? Would it have to be safer or
Yeah,
just less effort?
Less,
It requires.
they have to fight fewer murder hornets per flower.
What are the bees getting out of this?
Well,
Because
They
I
don't have to
guess
fight
that's-
as many murder
you
hornets.
think the bees would want to be propagating all their plants all the time too to keep their forests alive.
Yeah, so
They must
there
not
would-
want their
there's
plants to-
literally,
There's
gotta
a
be
zombie
something-
parasite that's tricking the bees into not pollinating the plants.
I wonder. Because yeah.
Unsolved scientific mystery
is-
right there, baby. All you biology PhD candidates out there need something to study.
This, in order to counteract this, the flowers that somehow accidentally have more pollen on their outside are going to be more successful until the flowers
Definitely, but they
eventually
really,
have-
really, really safely protect the inside, so I don't know if that's going to be a leap they can make. I feel like it's
It
really,
might be-
there's none that
it
have
might be too- a bridge too
accidentally
far.
have any outside, yeah.
But also, yeah, what is the motive of the bee that is
Yeah,
eventually
what
not
the
gonna
fuck?
propagate?
How did this happen? But
And I heard, well, there's been a big bee problem where we've been
yeah,
extinct-
the bee
right, and
holocaust
there's
has been on for like 20 years
So is this
or
some
more.
sort
So
of-
yeah, the bee rebuttal.
They're like, we're gonna, we're,
You know-
we're taking you with us if we're going on.
They say that, but I think I see just as many bees. I think it's just I spend less time
I
outside.
see far less. When I was Lincoln's age, you couldn't walk through any open field anywhere.
Without getting
Just, yeah, there's
stung
bees
in
on
the
every
foot.
flower. You have to
Oh, I
walk.
stepped on many a bee when I
You
was
have to
young.
watch your step really, really well if you're walking through any
Yeah.
open field of grass.
We were at the dam probably like 5 years ago, and that field to the beach covered with bees. Nick Lennon got stung in the foot. This last summer we went, no bee problem.
Yeah,
Did
just
we
But it-
any-
walk through that field a lot?
Yeah, any field I go to
Well, I
now,
mean, just the
it's
grass
hard
between
to
the dam and between the sand and the.
I look.
Maybe we didn't walk through it as much, but I'm just saying.
I look.
haven't heard-
I
seen a bee
still,
sting there
I
recently.
still look for bees when I'm walking through a field, and I don't see
I
hardly
pay
any bees
zero
anymore.
attention to that, but
Sounds like Garrett's the most aware. You get it.
But
You
based
are.
on that evidence of, I do remember people used to get stung at the dam, and I remember Nick getting stung there like 5 years ago, and then there's been 0 stings in the last 2 years.
But Uncle Joe was my 4th grade biology teacher, and he kind of got me started. And I was like, Uncle Joe, I saw something really weird. Have you ever heard of anything like that? He's like, no, I never heard of anything like that.
Do you think he?
Obviously-
Well, he was your 4th grade teacher. He also taught biology, or was he
He
specialized?
specialized in
Do you think it's
I didn't know he
something that
specialized in
he,
biology. That's awesome.
yeah,
thinks
or
he-
science at
Do you
least.
think he took it seriously, or
I bet.
is more?
His generation
he doesn't ponder biology
They
anymore.
didn't mess around with
Yeah, I
it.
bet it was just a one-off that he never thought of again. But
So he was a biology major or something like that?
I don't know, but he definitely specialized in science.
Yeah, for sure.
For
he
sure.
was a scientist.
Yeah.
And when I was in elementary, he gave a special demonstration to the entire elementary school where he just did a Carl Sagan science display on stage.
Yeah,
and showed all of his
exactly.
cool science
Yeah, exactly.
tricks
Hell yeah.
He was the science master.
before you were in my elementary school.
I wish I was that cool.
But me and David were there. It was
Yeah.
probably for David's benefit mainly.
Probably.
Right before David dropped out
Exactly.
and moved to LA and became a rock star.
No, this was elementary school.
So, yeah, right before.
Became a dirt bike racer, rock star, soldier,
So
Renaissance
David
man.
is flourishing.
since April, I've been doing Red Man because it's so good. So think of fine cut, horrible. Long cut,
Unchewable,
long
in
cut,
my opinion.
long cut, way better.
I'm sure some people do.
So
it.
Red Man is ultra, ultra, ultra long cuts, like full leaves. But I didn't have any of that available tonight, so the Drinking Boys just all threw in a long cut Grizz.
Which I'm happy to be back to because we've been on
I like long cut.
Big Man for
This is
about a
spectacular.
year. So this is the old stuff that
This
we
is
used
back
do.
to the cocaine from the soft coffee beans.
It's good. I appreciate it.
I might vomit.
Lucky. Really good. So
Jim Beach had a lot of those.
yeah, I made it most of the week
Purging.
through the Elysium Mysteries without vomiting. I thought I was gonna make it, and then midweek for some reason I took
Oh,
up
This is a pretty gross story.
not the place,
Took up
not
butt
the time.
chugging? What do you take up? Don't leave me in suspense.
I took up drinking every wounded I could find. I
yeah,
started
that'll
up
kill
leaving
you.
them behind and having them poured out. And then one
Drank,
morning I was
bitter.
on the way home from a random cottage at 4 in the morning, and there was a wounded on the back of a car. I'm not really sure what it was. I actually think
It
now
wasn't even one of our cars. It was motor oil.
it was definitely not one of our cars. It was a random
No
cottage.
way. It was a random car.
But thinking back on it, I think it was just a rotten beer that had been in the sun for a week. So it had turned and started marinating and
You're gonna make me vomit.
yeah.
That's what I tried to.
So
Buffer it as much as I
immediately,
could.
as soon as I had it in my mouth, I started projectile vomiting the rest of the way back to my couch. But thankfully it was raining that night, and so I got a good cleanse and then walked inside. And yeah, that was my one and only for the week until detoxing when I got home, and that was a different one. But
I got one in, and it was after you bet me $5 I couldn't smoke the fattest cigar possible without vomiting. So I smoked that huge cigar.
I knew that was a good bet.
Yeah, and then I did my
Usual
nightly
20
routine
beers. Yep.
where I see how many beers I can
So
shotgun
he's
against.
done that every night for the last 5 nights. So
Whoever
let the record
shotguns the
show
most
the
beers.
cigar was the difference. And if it was a regular night without smoking the entire cigar,
No.
you have been fine.
You see, this time, so I have the knife. I'm trying to shotgun the beer. I stab it the whole way through. Luckily, I don't destroy my hand.
That's
on
a really
it.
bad way to
was the whole
shotgun
way
But
beer.
now the shotgun beer can't be shotgunned.
Yeah.
So I immediately try to shotgun it because what else can you do with the irreparably damaged beer? So I shotgun that one immediately, and now the people I was going to shotgun with, they're like, you should shotgun that without us. Like, oh, no, I messed up on the shotgun. I'll do another one. Don't worry. So I immediately do another one right after that. And then it was mostly foam anyway. Wink, wink.
Nice.
No food.
I
All right.
waited until Friday night, which is the final night when we usually stay up until the break of dawn. And
Watch
I
the
was just,
sunrise on the beach.
it's like my 7th night in the row of drinking and throwing in Red Man, and
Will made it the whole way to the
it
end.
got me.
It was amazing.
And then I threw up a bunch and passed out.
But I was there for that. That was for my rally when I got back to the park cottage at 3:30 and started watching chess the rest of the night.
What do you do to Will?
I think it was.
I
I
think-
was.
Fatigue?
I was
I
doing.
think he played until he lost the court, and then
Well, I was spitting, and I had like 10 empties. The beers were going down like water, and then I think I was just running out of beers and drinking my Red Man spit, and then it was over.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then-
And you waited until you lost your last game, and then you walked outside, so it might have just been the devastating defeat that made you do it.
no, they went to the bathroom and they went and laid down, and then he got up another half hour later and went back for round 2.
But I also shotgunned a lot that night with Matt, who
Yeah.
said he promised
Trey-
5 shotguns.
Trey said that Matt did 5 shotguns and then did 5 more and put Trey to bed before I got back at 3:30.
Well, the last one I remember was number 7, but I think we did some more after that. Plus all the other drinking we did all day.
Also, if we're just switching from Red Man to Grizzly, we probably shouldn't tell all of our best throw-up stories right when we're at the highest risk and verge of vomiting again.
So back in high school, not to date myself or anything, but I got bet that I wouldn't drink alcohol until I was 19, and if I did that, then I'd get an all-expense-paid trip to Canada.
Good man Mason, our brother Mason was trying to protect our
The
young cousins.
caveat for that was if you win a state championship, you get the trip anyway. Andrew won 2 state championships.
But it was
Sounds like it covers both our tickets
during
to
the
Canada.
year.
But it was also after he started drinking. So
It was like a
the
month,
contract was
a month
void.
after, I think, was the
You had to stay
So-
sober until the championship was
I think
won, and you
Mason
guys
still
didn't do that.
owes Andrew some
No, I
trips to
remember it
Canada.
specifically. You had to stay sober until the championship. And
That's
it
a
was-
stickler me seeks there.
Well, yep. That's everyone in our family.
Okay. So anyway, I started chewing. I probably started chewing after I started drinking, actually. If I started drinking
It
when I
started
was like
way after.
17.
Sort of way after.
But definitely started chewing back then too, because it was easier to get tobacco than it was to get alcohol, and
yeah, you
you're
could
just
buy it when you're
looking,
18.
looking for any way to find an altered state of consciousness, because your state of consciousness you're in when you're in high school growing up is not a good state of consciousness, at least in most American school systems, I'd say. So we would chew, and I started out with Kopi Wintergreen, and I did that until every time I would throw one in, I just couldn't do it, and it would every time I'd have to spit it
But
out.
you started with that?
Yeah.
That's rough. What made it vomitrocious and having to throw out?
My body just didn't like it anymore. But then I switched to mint, and I've never had any problems
Mint
with
for
mint
the
or
win.
wintergreen since then.
Mint
And
for the
now-
win. Definitely.
Now I can throw any hog in again.
Nice.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. God bless. So I did some Red Man at my high school graduation party, but that was the only time. And then basically I didn't start chewing till I was 22, senior in college.
Sorry for spitting into the mic.
And I had a bunch of friends who did it. Hireman. It was awesome.
Virus? Or did you get Virus on it?
I think
Because
Virus
I know
and
he does it now.
I think Virus and I took up simultaneously, so he was 2 years older than me. Maybe it was after Virus was graduated. He was 2 years graduated from
He was 2 years older
college.
than you.
Yeah,
No wonder you're so cool. You got a nice mentor like Virus.
exactly. He's 2 years older than me.
You were talking about your first jawing?
Yeah, I think I was a senior in college.
Well, you did Redman
yeah,
and
Corey,
graduating, you said.
my brother Corey Palmer, I love, one of my best friends from high school, took me to my graduation party, bought a huge pack of Red Man on the way, and then
No
at the
way.
graduation party I threw a huge one in, was doing all the imitations of all the baseball pitchers.
Did Corey buy it, or
Corey bought it, but we were both 18, so it was legal. We both could have
did
bought
you
it and
do
done
Redmond
it.
back then?
No, he just bought it for the fun of the graduation party.
It's a celebration.
And I don't even know. He might have just bought it to swindle me into doing it. I don't even know if he did.
Classic
Yeah,
swindle,
that's,
too.
that's a good celebration buy by Corey. But since we got
Definitely.
back into it, have you offered him? Because you've given it to a lot of your friends.
I haven't seen
wonder
Corey
if
since
would be
April
like,
when it happened.
"Oh, I bet he would throw it in.
I hope we're
Yeah.
not
I
blacklisted
doubt it.
from Corey. I feel like he's still amiable towards us, and he says
Corey
he'll come
loves
back, and then he
us.
just never comes back.
Corey loves us. Corey loves us.
He was one of the few viewings we got on Memorial Day, right? He made,
I got a text from him just the other day giving us his condolences for the Guardian's name. You know, I was like, yep, Savage Burn, horrible name, and he ripped on us a little and was like, yeah.
I got a text from Jay Wall.
Sucks to be you for the Guardians. I'm like,
Or
fuck
J.
yeah, it
Ryan.
does. That was horrible. Cleveland Steamers, by the way. Cleveland's front office, if you're listening to the Drinking Buddies for names of the baseball team, it should be the Cleveland Steamers baseball team.
And then
we just started Steamboat Casino. Anyone looking for $1 million ideas? Steamboat River Casino on Lake Erie. There's a steamer there. It's a national icon, and
It's the Steamboat.
the Cleveland Indians are named after the Steamboat
and it's the
Casino.
biggest casino in
Yep.
who's that guy? Dan Gilbert. An idea for you, Dan Gilbert, out there?
You
if you're
poor
listening?
blind bastard! If you're listening, you didn't happen to see
Dan Gilbert.
anything at all.
He's the guy who can pull it off. Is the jack his? He might actually run the jack too.
Yeah, whoever owns the Jack,
What's
great
the
idea
Jack?
for you. It's used to be the
That's our
Horseshoe
current land
Casino.
but not the better riverboat casino.
Oh well. Also, if anyone wants to buy the Drinking Buddies a complimentary $5 million Steamboat Casino on Lake Erie and get us the licenses, we would love to run that for you and bring you podcasts from the Steamboat at your pleasure.
Every
And
dealer.
you guys can
Fund
have
it by
yeah.
by gambling and buying.
You
drinks
can
there.
have 95% of the profits. All we want is one room to podcast in, and that's about it.
We'll have many lifeguards on duty at all times.
But more importantly, everyone will sign their life away before they get on. That anything happens on the lake stays on the lake, and everyone's accepting fatalities. Literally, anytime you go to a park, like African Lion Safari or Walnut Creek, there's a huge sign that says, agricultural animals kill people all the time. If you fuck with them, you die, and if you come here, you're at risk of dying from horses.
Yeah,
or,
all you have to do is have the sign that says, "We are not responsible," and you have to put in really bold print
Yeah.
right on the door that they enter through.
in all.
We saw that sign
And you're no
somewhere
longer
recently
liable.
where it literally said nothing. You can't be.
Exactly.
Oh, it was at the winery.
Oh yeah, it
Just
was
put
at the winery.
And they
They're
had
like,
signs
we're no
that said-
longer selling you meat sticks, so we can no longer be responsible
Well,
for your
if you-
actions.
It was at the Dandelion
Amish
Festival.
one. They said if you
Oh,
die
yeah,
on our
yeah, yeah.
premises, we don't have any responsibility.
We have no remorse and
You
no
have-
regret.
You have no legal
So there was-
recourse to take against us if you
They just
suffer
had
any
a-
injury.
We
on
don't
our-
care how big and strong and Simone your lawyer is. We don't give a fuck.
So that was easy enough for them to shed all responsibility, and they're not even a dangerous steamboat casino with no laws.
Yep.
That goes to
International waters. The 50 miles between U.S. and Canada. There's 10 miles of U.S. border, 10 miles of Canadian border. And
Where
there's
they're like, all right, guys,
international
get out,
water,
we can
baby."
be pirated at any time now.
Get out your
Watch
knives.
yourselves.
Keep
Every
your
man
big
for
sticker
themselves.
I
sharp.
hope.
We should
Guard
get
the
an
captain.
island. We should get an island there and start pirating.
We could. And it's just literally, there's no recourse from law enforcement. It's just every man for themselves.
But then any assault helicopter could come and assassinate all of us at once.
Yeah,
Anytime they
you'd have
want.
to have anti-aircraft cannons.
We have to have a super intelligent AI and a super impressive defense system.
Well, civilian craft can't have military weapons on them.
But in national waters, they can.
They'll have the.
So we have to
assault rifles that come
dismantle
down.
all the.
No,
anti-aircraft
remember when you
turrets?
said we're going to build a spaceship assembling in space? We'll go to international waters and build a warcraft assembling station in international waters between Ohio and Canada, and then there we go.
Also, we have no funding for this.
Also, Put-in Bay might be that island.
It's
That's where Admiral Perry mounted his attack from.
nice.
And we know all the fresh drinking water in the cave we can go to.
sure
Remember your
there's
failure in the
islands
cave.
that are affordable there, as opposed to buying other islands. I think if you're shopping in the international waters of Lake Erie,
Compared to the tropical island
you
market,
could get
where
something.
100% of your island's tropical rainforest there's a million species that are
Or
undescribed.
priceless islands.
Yeah,
This
it's
island is only good for setting up a pirate island.
Except
Pirate Bay.
probably all those rainforest islands in Lake Erie also have infant species that are undescribed and undefined.
Well, what can also set up our prehistoric forest RV park to fund our operation.
Actually, the Great Lakes were covered in glaciers going back to episode 1, I think, until like 10,000 years ago. So probably 100% of the species are just species from the mainland that came over, and there's no indigenous
Nothing.
species whatsoever that aren't found anywhere else. So the island's a lot less priceless, and we should start building
But we could bring all of our favorite creatures, like the monkey.
the monkey that lives in Japan and China that can sustain
we'll
Ohio.
instantly put that on our island for sure.
The one that can go to vending machines, though, so it can steal money from the people and then put the money in our vending machines.
That's every monkey.
Okay. Well, we'll
Clever
put all those
girl.
monkeys on.
Fun joke. Have you guys ever heard of Switchman Jack?
No.
This was a baboon in South Africa. Its owner, I think, was named like Jumping Jack because
Jumping Jim?
he used to always jump between the train tracks. And then one time he didn't make the jump and his legs were cut off in a horrific accident. So he got a baboon to do his job. And every day it would have to switch the tracks between the oncoming trains. And a passenger complained. He's like, that fucking guy's a fucking monkey running the tracks. So they sent out the inspector. And the monkey did a perfect job. And they're like, we're just putting him on the payroll. So then for the next 9 years, the monkey got 20 cents a week and a beer a week. And he never made a mistake for 9 years and just ran it
That is
flawlessly.
impressive.
Yeah, a baboon can switch the tracks perfectly every time with no mistakes.
A baboon?
Yeah.
What are they talking? Would they do these things where they're like, "Oh, this animal has this primitive tool use." This is a baboon that's running doing a
And
job of a sapien.
there's
running
pictures
a switch,
of it
a
because
train
it was
track
like
switch.
in the 1900s. It's
These
like
things are
1920.
well beyond tool use.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
It has like a huge handbrake. It has to pull, press a button at the same time, move
And
this
it has
huge
to
lever,
I guess watch the
and
trains
time all
so
the
you know.
trains and get
Yeah.
everything right. It's
That's incredible
And just-
mythological.
It's like
story.
this, yeah. It sits in a lawn chair and it's like, oh, the train's coming, jumps up, switches the track right on time.
that's just
Never
how
makes a mistake.
closely related we are. Like, 99% of humans couldn't invent the train track or the lever, but
Yeah, but
a lot of them could
if you
do
pay
that
me in
level.
beer, I
lever
could probably
switch.
And
stand up and switch it, but I might not.
0% of them could invent a monkey that could do that job and run around and move. Although
So
Boston
Switchman Jack-
Dynamics,
Or
you
Jumpman
savage
Jack was the
bastards.
owner of it. of the monkey,
Switchman Jack is the name of the baboon.
and then the jumping jack was
Jumping Jack was its owner, but
Who-
I don't know if his name was Jack, but he was jumping something.
When's that biopic coming out?
A good question. Hollywood, all you good Hollywood people out there, feel free to steal all of our ideas. Just fund a little bit of money towards the drinking buddies, and we'll keep coming with ideas. Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
So that was the Switchman Jack story. You have any monkey stories out there?
That one's impressive. I guess trains aren't as a popular form of transportation these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Although, I don't know what, did they lose their economic advantage? It's now better to just use drones and planes, and there's 1,000 Amazon vans.
You're right.
lot
As we
of
go back to
Major metropolises still have them, the subways.
exactly Europe and Japan, as we try to make a more green and sustainable society, maybe we'll go switch back to trains.
True, we're always looking for public transportation, right?
Yep.
It's just the cost of building a huge railway system in your town.
So,
But if you do, it's really efficient, and once
Yeah.
you get it going, it's good. But just the the capital to build it,
the upkeep
the
of
land,
railroad tracks.
all your neighbors that are going to be really annoyed by it.
So yesterday we were at a family reunion at a regular park in a regular Ohio town that had obvious rules against drinking. Their number one rule is no alcohol allowed.
About firearms, fireworks.
But as good drinking buddies, we obviously flaunted that rule and had no respect for it.
That was
And
impressive.
I thought I got uninvited to that reunion because they didn't want my kind
yeah,
there.
you weren't keeping up on the text. They said they
I thought it specifically had my name circled
Yeah.
and no alcohol.
Uncle Bernie totally lied about that and
Also,
estimated that
so us,
point.
the pro drinking buddies had their vag, which was super incognito,
Yep.
vodka Gatorades that they were drinking constantly. Scott, the Detweiler there, was just like, here's my cooler of beer, and I brought a koozie, so it's gonna be, so no one will know.
Koozies are really incognito.
Exactly.
So he was
So he had a
drinking
koozie
beer
of beer.
straight from a koozie in front of all these people.
Completely fine.
And we were even doing the story segment where every relative had to like share a memory. And Scott got called up, and he just went right up to the front.
Sprinted up and jumped up on the table like Freddie Mercury at.
Everyone else told their story from their spot. Scott went up to the very front, right next to the host, drinking his beer the whole time, just being like,
Sprinted
"Yo,
up with his scepter like
Word.
King Freddie Mercury in the crowd in the palm of his hands.
this is the guy who hosts the Jim Morrison seance that Garrett went to."
Shout out to our legendary drinking buddy Scott. I love you, brother.
So he hung out
Amazing job.
and did the full bore.
And if I had
hang out the whole
a dime for every time I just drank beer out of a koozie and that was my incognito, I would have $1 million by now. That's obviously a great strategy and totally legitimate.
That was a pretty cool Scott showing
And
at
we
the
did
reunion.
we did even more incognito and did vodka Gatorades and it got ripped at the public gathering. No problem.
That's the most bang for your buck for the most incognito, for sure.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Right up with straight vodka water bottle.
Yeah, but I got home and I was like, man, I'm feeling really hydrated. And just
No way.
went to bed completely
that
sober,
Gatorade.
basically. I was like, well, that was easy.
Thought I'd get some more rally texts, but no one was in on the rally.
Trey Dick teased me and pretended he was going to come over. And he's like, he told me a riddle as always. And I'm like, I can't even decipher that.
I was mostly hammered at that point, if that's any consolation.
That would have made perfect sense. I'm so
the riddles come
I'm so deep in the queue I could never make it out.
Little master.
I'm far, far away and very deep in the queue.
It's like, that's okay, brother. It's all winding down.
Yeah. But we rallied for today. Which is what matters.
Yep.
I'm glad I'm here. No place I'd rather be.
Honor, privilege
Honor,
to
privilege.
do a Drinking Buddies podcast. Cheers,
Health and
brothers.
happiness.
Grizzly long cut, man. That's old time. No one does long cut anymore.
No one.
At least within my sad drinking buddies clan.
I don't know about
Everyone switched to pouches.
everyone else's Walmart, but my Walmart I go to in the last couple months phased out all their tobacco. And the last time I bought tobacco, they're like, "Hey, we're not selling any more tobacco. So this, what you see on the wall, is all we got. So buy it, and we're not
Really?
restocking any other tobacco
Walmart
here.
is getting out of the tobacco game.
Yeah,
At least the one I went
Trey
to.
told me that, and I was terrified, but I have not seen anything like that. All mine have still had full tobacco,
It was
but
just the one general manager of the one Walmart
I
that
hope
said
so.
it's against
Yeah,
his
some
religion.
teetotaler. I hope, because so far, all mine still had it. But if you want Red Man, you gotta go to Circle K or Sheets. I've found out in my research today whenever I couldn't find a Red Man within 5 miles of Drinking Buddies headquarters.
I got mine at that gas station by the softball field. I don't know if that was a Circle K or Sheets, but it might have been a Circle K. Do you remember what that one is?
Nice.
I think it's a Special K, yeah.
There's a Circle or a Special K in Canton South, right by 77 Freeway Road South. That definitely has all of them. So shout out to that gas station. That's a good one.
Did you ever find the silver? And
Yeah,
how
it's-
is it? Less tasty? Or
Trey did it with me the other day. It was really good.
even
It's
better?
just as good, just as
Just as
sweet.
good. It's got.
It might be a little
sugar.
less sweet, but it's just as good.
It's 1% less good.
Okay.
It's like
And
99%
what,
as good.
100% healthier.
I don't
Garrett
know.
also told me an anecdote where he said sugar is actually the most dangerous part.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so
Anything
this
you
was
eat.
on Explained. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's by Vice, I think. Vice does an Explained
I
show.
haven't seen that one.
Well, it's really good. There's like 4 seasons, and they just explain something every episode. You might remember Mason did the astrology one
Oh, that's what
like
he
4
found.
times. Yeah. But anyway, this
And
one's
it
on
never-
sugar. It's the episode 1 of this new season. It was on sugar. Well, we've always known sugar is horrific for you, but I don't know if it is in chewing tobacco because we're not eating it. And I think the people I've heard who had problem from the sugar were swallowing their spit the whole time. So that probably if you're spitting
you're
your
right.
spit, I
It's
don't really know what
just-
it's doing. But I don't think you want sugars sitting on your teeth
What's the
because that
difference
probably promotes the bacteria that are around your teeth, regardless if you're just putting it in your mouth. So
between sugar and
you don't want sugar.
chocolate?
chocolate contains sugar, but it's a much larger and more complex molecule, I think.
So your body doesn't get poisoned the same as
No, it
easily
does.
by it?
Well, it depends on what kind of chocolate, because different
I'm pretty
chocolates
sure
have different
the
amounts
lethal
of sugar.
dose of chocolate's like 5 to 8 pounds, or like 2 to 5 to
Yeah,
8 pounds.
so
or something.
chocolate has a different drug in it called theo something. I don't remember what it is, but it's like theomine or theothymine or something like that. But that's the one that poisons the dogs, and it's an amazing stimulant in its own right. And it has another one that's really close to it. That's a derivative or some molecule super close to theothymine.
Also,
But that's what poisons the dogs, but that's also what gives you the euphoria and the stimulant feeling from chocolate.
Is that in all chocolates?
Yeah.
So that, but some dogs can't eat. Some dogs can't eat.
Yeah,
chocolate.
absolutely.
I think it's the
Like,
dogs that are mutts.
I
that
think only
can't
like
eat chocolate.
50% of dogs are even harmed by that
I
at all.
think
Like,
it's the
I've never
purebred,
heard of
bad
a dog
genetic
eating
dogs.
chocolate, really.
my when I was growing up, I had a filthy mutt named Bernie Kosar, named after the Browns quarterback, and it was half German Shepherd, half Collie, and probably 5 other things. And it ate my entire Easter basket like 5 years in a row. Ate the
Before you
whole-
could find it.
whole chocolate Easter bunny.
Gosh.
It was completely fine. It had no ill effects whatsoever. And every year, Aunt Shelley was laying next to it, taking its pulse every 5 minutes, and be like, "Bernie Kosar's about to die," and no problem
She
whatsoever.
got-
It's just like Trey having a regular night of drinking. He gets up and he's fine.
I think Indy had a pan of brownies or a chocolate cake before.
Yeah,
An
I think
entire double chocolate.
it's really
chocolate
rare the
cake.
dog that you can find that actually dies of
I
chocolate.
think they must be like either not mutts or just.
Or maybe
They're
now
genetically
they've adapting
defective.
to it better.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also possible.
The dogs that are poison my chocolate all die out immediately because they all eat chocolate.
But
around
speaking
the
of
clock.
sugar, I have a good drug story
Awesome.
recently that Trey missed. So our grandpa Sam, who's an
Oh,
88-year-old,
this was
sugar
also at the
addict
reunion. This was also at the reunion yesterday.
who just his secret to his longevity is eating candy for every meal, and it keeps him healthy.
And every 5 minutes, he's like, "You need to eat more candy."
And he's
And-
always passing out candy and eating candy.
And we're like, I hope you live till next time. And he's like, only if I eat enough candy.
So we're at a
Those were his
picnic.
two rebuttals and 2 jokes he told
Saturday,
nonstop
at
the
a
entire
hot
time.
80-degree, all sunny, all dehydrating day, where everyone's in danger, and his drink with his meal is a Frappuccino milkshake,
And
which
Shelly
he
brought
never has.
22 grams of sugar and full caffeine.
But it's a glass.
A glass Frappuccino bottle. Yeah.
So instead of drinking any water this day, that's what he drinks with his chicken. And then we have this Chips Ahoy chocolate chip cookie thing that he makes me go 1 for 1 with him in his
You had a
Also-
chocolate chip cookie off with
He
Grandpa?
can never remember more than 1 cookie into the past.
So every cookie is like, wow, I think it's time for another cookie, right?
That's like the
It's
best
like-
form of Alzheimer's, though,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
every cookie's the first cookie you
The
ate.
drunk
And
guy forced me to do another shot with him.
The drunk guy forced me
Until
to shot.
I can't eat any more cookies. I have a stomach ache from eating so
I
much.
can't
chocolate
believe
chip
you
cookies.
embalmed.
And then he has, there's a separate package of cookies, which is like all chocolate in the middle and then sugar cookie on the outside.
Well, no. Will and
After I
Will
already
and Grandpa
tap
go
out
through the
of the chocolate chip
first
cookies.
2 rows, and they're in the 3rd row. And Grandpa's like, Jesus Christ, Will, aren't you gonna eat any cookies with me? Classic Mike, deep into the trip. He's forcing Will to go cookie per cookie, and then Will takes that whole batch of cookies and hides it. And then there's another one right next to him, and Grandpa's like, Well, you know we're doing that, we're doing that box next. right?"
Garrett was smart enough to decline all the cookie offers, but I had to do the first box until I was sick, and then he was just eating a second box of chocolate cookies.
I didn't eat a goddamn cookie the
After
whole
his
day.
Frappuccino with 0 water on the entire picnic day.
It was
So
savage.
that was a drug.
R.I.P.
fueled-
too soon. I hope he's still alive.
also, yeah, I hope he is not having any ill effects the next day after that. But
He's probably doing backflips and doing 500 pull-ups
And he
today.
definitely went home and ate cookies and candy all day today.
also,
Is that it? Sugar and eating what you like is probably
Yeah.
the most important thing.
Yeah.
in survival.
It's
he
like-
has the
Eating what you
positive
like.
mindset the whole time he's
Yeah.
eating it, where it's the best thing for him and he's his favorite thing. And
Everyone
Exactly.
knows life is all about
Pronoia.
the mindset.
Pronoia.
so he's got the
He knew it was
full
good for him, and it was. It's like
Positive
the placebo
placebo benefit.
Positive placebo
Yeah.
benefit.
For sure.
Exactly.
That's
That's
There's
what.
definitely the negative placebo benefit where
That's-
nothing could be wrong with
that's
you,
what I'm
and if
gonna
you just
do
believe
with-
it hard enough, you
That's
can.
what I hope to do with tobacco and alcohol my whole life.
But it was
Will,
an
pass me another beer.
impressive showing by Grandpa Sam at the Detweiler reunion.
Super impressive. Also, he hasn't aged a day in 15 years. He's exactly how he was 15 years ago.
That's what all the relatives are saying.
Also-
for the first time.
He's got titanium knees and titanium spines, and he's probably gonna outlive us all in eating cookies.
If he was looking for a pull-up bar, but there wasn't one close enough,
Yeah.
or he would have done some pull-ups.
Let's go pee. Keep it rolling, my brothers.
Sounds like we need to get him a pull-up bar
Perhaps.
For his 90th birthday.
I mean, he has all the door frames. The 1 centimeter of space on each side that he does his pull-ups on right now.
That's a really good finger strength workout. But he also has a massive 2-acre lawn that he mows twice a week to complete descent to the shortest setting on the lawnmower and keeps it very pristine.
Meticulous.
And in addition to that, he almost did the Jesse Wall and drove away from the venue to buy a Powerball ticket because it was Saturday and I guess the drawing was near. And he's still a believer and a dreamer and is planning on making more trips out west and buying a new Thunderbird.
Oh yeah, he was talking about his Thunderbird he got back in the day.
Yep, he used to drive classic cars and
Yeah, one of his first cars was a beautiful Thunderbird, and
Ford Thunderbird. It was so Saturday was our family reunion, so we got to mingle with some relatives. Uncle Bruce, I think the oldest one at the party, was 92 years old.
Is he still flying planes? Does he? He's the guy that builds his own planes and flies.
That's Uncle Brian.
Yeah.
And he didn't make it this
He's
year.
legally blind now, and the government took away his right to drive an automobile.
Or he would have been here.
Well, they can't take away his right to fly a bipedal
I
plane.
think they can really easily. I think getting a pilot's license is harder than a driver's license.
Well, there's fewer police in the sky to bring you down.
True.
But Uncle Brian was planning on being there and was thinking about driving up blind with no license, and some people in his family talked him out of it.
But he was completely fine with just driving there. Because at this age, it's like...
Yeah, why would you not?
I think he has a lot of naysayers.
What would
resistors,
happen
though.
if his 91-year-old got pulled over with no license?
Yeah,
They'd be like,
your license.
he'd be like, I forgot it. I'm old and
Hey, I'm
senile.
old enough to be your grandfather.
Yeah.
Let me drive. Continue to drive.
I've been driving twice as long as you've been alive, officer. I think I know how to do it better.
With
than
all due respect, officer.
Did you guys observe the mask policy for the sensitive people in the
I
family?
brought a mask and wore it around my neck, and then I died of heat stroke 10 minutes in, took it off, and then sadly never went and talked to dear Iris, and that was my big regret, it's not talking to her, but I didn't talk to her without a mask because I didn't talk to her at all, sadly.
Okay, so you observed her
Yeah,
one request.
I did.
Don't talk to me unless you have a
Yep,
mask on.
exactly.
I put mine on after G left on when I talked to Aunt Joan.
Did you talk to Aunt Iris?
No.
Is Aunt Joan the one from Cali?
Yeah, she's the Kylie aunt
Sick.
who took me in for Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, then you were
And it was
definitely, that
It was
sounds
great
like
to see her.
amazing,
She's the
yeah.
youngest sister, so she's still...
She's 1 or 2
thriving.
years younger than Grandma Nancy?
Yeah, she's fully thriving.
Yeah.
As good as any of our
Exactly.
generation hands on.
Grandma, seriously, 2 years ago, Grandma Nancy was in perfect health and completely running the boat.
I think she got the bad placebo where
The sugar was bad for
someone
her.
started
Damn it.
whispering evil lies
And
about how
Grandpa's
bad
feeding her
the
sugar
things
every
were.
minute of her
Well, I
life.
think she's recovering. She had a health scare a couple of Christmases ago, but I think she is actually on the mend.
The word
more
on
than declining.
the word on the street is that Grandpa Sam and Grandma Nancy have no mental cognition whatsoever and can't take their pills.
That's
The
what
scary story everyone likes.
I
to
think
tell.
that's just a scary negative placebo people are spreading
That's
that
what
to try
Uncle
and
Bernie told us, who also told us no one's invited to the picnic.
also Uncle Marty saw them and he's like, wow, they're in perfect health.
Yeah. Exactly
Meanwhile,
right.
Uncle Bernie's like, hey, watch out, Nancy, you're gonna, ooh, bad voodoo.
Yeah. Father was dropping a lot of burns on the elders at the picnic.
Classic. It wouldn't have been a picnic without that. Elderly burns. Damn it.
Also, if anyone's keeping track at home, I did a couple shotguns today already. Because once a
No one's keeping
shotgunner,
track at home.
still a shotgunner.
In honor of Bobby, or
No, I was talking to Nick earlier and like, is it time for us to do a shotgun? And then we did one, and he was like, I only have one beer left. Should
You
we-"
did one over the air? With
Yep, over the air.
No
Nick,
way.
I was like,
shout out to Nikolai.
he's like, I got one beer left. Do you think I should drink it slowly, talking to you, or should I shotgun it and then go get more beer? Or should I drink it slowly, then go get more beer? I was like,
Oh my
I
god.
mean, shotguns are always fun, so he did too.
Nice. He only had one, but he did two.
did he go to get more
Well, he
beer?
did the first
He
one.
pulled one out of his storage
And
compartment.
he's like, I only have one beer left. Should we shotgun it? I only have one beer left. Should we shotgun it or should we drink it slow? And like, we should probably just shotgun it.
Nick is the man, the myth, the legend.
Exactly. I love that guy.
Speaking of which, after wedding weekend this weekend, Trash Canoe will be coming up.
Saturday. the
Jesus
8th.
We
Christ.
might get
Let's not.
a rally
Let's
of
not
our
post
drinking
that.
buddies together, and if we can live that long and stay out of jail for
I don't
drinking
really
too much.
know what Sarah and I's plan is for going on. She seemed optimistic about Saturday the 8th, but I don't know what we're doing or what our plan is. How we're going to get babysitters, but hope springs eternal, and that's definitely a premier event of the year.
Hey, G, you might need to put your chickens in.
Sorry. All right, keep it going.
We missed Memorial Day. Well, Trash Canoe used to be 4th of July, but yeah, this would be the first big canoe trip of the season. And the 10-mile trip has been getting harder and harder. I think I finally sold on the 7-mile.
I am fully condoned doing the 3 miles.
Last year, Will and I went through a time warp, and we paddled in the same direction for 7 hours, and then got back to the place we started, and
I
then
think we could
we're the last ones home.
just do the 3 miles and then end it at the bar and
And
say,
then-
take these canoes with you guys.
And then just go to a house party afterward, and play games and get off the river before we dive starvation and heat stroke.
Yeah, I like the 3-mile plan, but
I could do
the
that.
reason why the 10 miles better than the 7 miles because the first 3 are the best miles. So
yeah, so we'll
have
still
to
be
do
getting
the-
the
Still
best
a
3 miles in.
Good day of canoeing.
It's just we have to do the last 7 miles in 1/3 the time we
Yeah.
did the first 3
Yeah.
miles.
I'm all in
And-
for a 3-mile trip.
it's a good idea. You guys are pretty clever. It's a great idea.
Or we land at the 10-mile mark and then we see how far upstream that river goes.
Before doing those 3 miles.
Yeah, to just see
So
if
we
there's any cool
just
tributaries.
we have to go downstream for 100 yards until the person leaves because they frown upon you going
Exactly.
upstream.
Then we can
immediately.
go back, and then if there's a tributary, we could check that out. If there's no tributary, we just turn around and do the 3-mile.
I think they'd be cool with us paying for the 10-miler and then only doing 3 of it and
Just
saying,
agree to it
"Here's-"
beforehand. Pick us up at the 7-mile mark when you're dropping off other people, so you don't even make another trip.
Yeah. But
So,
it's, we'll figure that out when it comes.
that's how we usually roll.
So it's still wedding season for anyone keeping track, and I think the biggest wedding on our calendar is going to be this Saturday.
Definitely.
So it's a good time to see family and friends. This one is a good friend's wedding, so it's not going to be perhaps as many of the family as it
I
could be,
think-
but it's still going to be
It's a family friend, though.
family friend.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be a great
So
time.
most of the family is invited and going to be in attendance.
It's funny.
Fortunate.
At the bachelor party, Joe was telling me the day that Grandpa Rockhorse met him, he's like, "You have to let me go to your wedding,"
Did
and he was regretting not inviting him.
Oh, no way. He really thought about it, but he didn't
I
invite
feel like
him.
having Grandpa and Bev there would not have been a
But
hindrance.
last time I saw Grandpa, we were talking about the wedding, and he had no recollection of who Joe was and couldn't bring him out of
Yeah.
the ether.
Drew did it right. Grandpa and Bev were interested in going. But despite that, Grandpa still loves Dro, and next time he sees him, he'll embrace him like a.
Or slap him in the face like any lapsed Catholic he ever finds in his midst. Other than us, I don't think I've been slapped.
I might have been slapped once, and that was for bad euchre play. But
Nice.
I was asking for it. It was like 3 a.m. after drinking all day and all night, and I was getting really belligerent about playing euchre with him. So he was just his usual belligerence back and slapping a bad teammate.
Can't
bad
remember
euchre.
the last time I played euchre with Master Poe. It's been a while now. But I think last time I did, Master Poe blacked out and had to be carried to bed.
In Grandpa's defense,
That's
last
the
time
drinking buddy patriarch.
he slapped Trey. Trey was demanding to be slapped and purposefully reneging every time he was on Grandpa's team. And
Until I kind of regret playing so badly that I can never play euchre with him again. But on the other side, that ruined Gem Beach for Grandpa, and he never wanted to go back and play any more euchre with
so
anyone.
double regrets. That was the day Grandma Bev's like, "We shouldn't go back there anymore." He's like, "Yeah, that Trey's an asshole. We're not going back there ever again."
Trey's the reason the grandparents don't come. Well, I guess also their cottage got sold and bulldozed, or else he'd probably still go.
Jim Beach. Elysium Mysteries.
We're
Also,
about to be hitting August, the final stretch of the peak Ohio months.
Oh my gosh, we're about to go into the Hoth grotesque winter.
So we were at the picnic the other day and we saw infinite baby frogs. Could I still catch a baby painted turtle? Or is it past their season?
Oh, they're still babies for sure. If anyone were hatched
They're
this year.
1-year-olds all year this year.
Okay.
Uh,
Might try to put that on my summer to-do list.
Sweet, thank you, G. That's what I
My
need. A
pleasure.
real beer. I'm drinking out of the treasure chest of leftover beer over here. And
Everyone tastes like sour cream, rotten taco sour cream.
whoever got me good and threw the can of dead worms and sour cream in my cooler right before I drove home for 3 hours.
So speaking of Jim Beach Week, we typically have a fishing contest. What fishing numbers did you guys put up this year?
I didn't make a cast.
I made casts only into electrified waters.
Oh, actually, I did make some casts.
Caught 2 gobies,
I
2
had
brown
0
gobies.
fish. I forgot about the fishing. Garrett also caught a water snake,
And
which
a
was probably
garter
catch
snake.
of the year, catch of the Jim Beach Week.
That was really awesome because everyone was watching. It was on demand.
Yeah,
On
it's
demand
nice
when
to-
everyone requested the snake master come over and catch snakes. And there were 100 water snakes sticking their necks out like aliens and staring at us like they were baffled we were there. And it was really uncanny and weird.
Gee, as the resident biologist, I think you need to make note of this shit.
There's
So
Yeah,
not only
I
are the
can't-
bees acting
Yeah.
unnatural behavior, we went to Lake Erie. The first year, the water snakes are just.
There's just
We've never seen water snake behavior like that
Exactly,
before.
exactly.
This is
Utterly bizarre water
Level
snake
of-
behavior.
I don't know what you call a group of water snakes, but I think we call it a flock, and it was a flock of water snakes.
Yeah, and they were all sticking their heads out of the water like Master
They were
Hiss from
doing
Robin Hood,
Loch Ness.
staring at you,
Monster
yeah,
Nessie.
pterodactyl style from underwater. That was really weird. They're like, what the fuck are all these people doing here?
20 water snakes.
There's
Yeah.
at least a
aliens.
water snake for every human being on the shore, and there were like 20 humans and like 20 water snakes, and they're just looking at each other.
And it's late. It's like 8 at night. There's no sun here whatsoever. So there's no basking spots.
I think
No
that was
reason.
a prime basking spot,
No
though.
reason for them to even be on shore. Think about being on shore.
If it was sunny, it would have been a prime spot.
Definitely. But anyway, one stuck its neck out, and I saw it climbing from the seafloor up to the surface. So I wrangled it, and then we got to have a water snake catch.
I actually have a picture of that, and if we were more technologically inclined, I could pull that up on
And-
the podcast, and maybe in post-production I'll post that picture.
And it was released unharmed.
For the
And
segment.
if any DNR agents are out there, I have my fishing license, and it was a northern water snake, not a Lake Erie water snake, which you're not allowed to harass. Wink, wink.
The only difference is one's found in the north and one's found in Lake Erie.
Exactly, it's not a separate species, but they pretend it is so they can give it endangered status.
Back like you were saying, the gobies are spurring a revitalization of the water snakes.
90% of their diet is now round gobies.
I think all these boar will spur a revitalization
Of the
these
cougars,
cougars
and
and
the
bears.
black bears, yeah.
That would
You're
be
right.
great. Let's,
If we wanted more
Yeah,
big monsters,
except
in
we
our
don't want big
wilderness.
monsters in our neighborhoods, including boars.
well,
So
it's nice to see that life finds a way. I'd be interested in the revitalization,
Well-
even if we have to hunt them back.
The best part about the boars, though, are
they're made entirely of bacon.
they're made entirely of bacon, and I think their number one food source is just the
Shit you find
livestock
on the
of
ground?
farmers. Yeah,
I
just
think
shit they find on the
yeah,
ground,
roots and
or
grass and
a
just
farm. So,
garbage.
yeah.
And they're, as Churchill said, they're the ideal pet.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something like.
Cross at the narrows.
They're just the most treat us like
Human,
equals.
human of all pets.
Churchill, the man who, when he came to America during the Prohibition, got a doctor's note to drink whiskey round the clock while he was here,
Well, he's
to rub it in all his American.
We had to have
brothers
something
faces.
for foreign dignitaries. We
He's a good
can't.
alcoholic Brit. He's like, this backwards country doesn't let you drink booze.
Hey, if you guys never won the revolution, you wouldn't be suffering this prohibition right now, you dumb Americans.
Zing.
The Brits never gave up on The great.
Dang.
They're older and wiser.
Our ancestors to the Brits.
Into America.
To America.
Team America.
America.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck
Here
yeah.
to say the motherfucking day.
Health and
Yeah.
happiness, riches and prosperity to the empire.
Long live the Queen. Hopefully.
She better be eating cookies around the clock tonight if she's planning on living through the night, because she's old as fuck. Is this the oldest queen in the history of the English dynasty?
She might be, but she's also the only monarch, patriarch, royalty, regal who served in the military, and she served as like a nurse during World War II.
No way.
Yeah, I guess none of the other royalty ever served in the military, so she's pretty legendary.
They're still doing. It's 2021, and when God forbid the Queen dies, they're gonna name whoever is next in line, which is what, the prince. And then there's gonna be a new king, and they're gonna keep their tradition going.
Yep. And what are these monarchs doing for us other than figureheads?
Well, yeah, they're clearly figureheads, but that's still just the tradition. Which
Pretty
I
cool.
don't know, maybe.
If
many
we don't
years
have
from now,
tradition, what do we have?
Whenever we switch to the council, we'll have a figurehead president if we feel nostalgic for that type of thing.
Sounds like a
Which
nice...
actually I hope we're heading towards, because clearly I think these are figureheads in the American governmental system at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't think Joe Biden came up with any of his policies.
I don't
Trump might have
think
been
so.
pulling policies out of his butt, but I think Joe Biden... I
Is-
heard...
Checks Twitter and finds out which
Yeah,
is the best
so-
ones recommended.
You know how Trump had his anti-China policies or whatever? I think Biden made like a handful of companies illegal to trade with China, and then he's like made like 80 other companies. He like way more companies he added to the pro-tariff list where they could still use all their cheat codes to trade with China. Just pulled it out of his butt though. I don't after all the campaigns.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't watch the news, but I think you did mention that on the last
But I
podcast.
feel
On
like
the
a Twitter poll
podcast
would
number
actually
2,
be a pretty
podcast
good way
blackout.
to govern. Run a Twitter poll. It's like just running another election, and you could do that for any.
The problem with
Policy
the
that you're
Twitter
trying to
poll
pass.
though is that
Bots.
there's Russian
Any
bots and
bots
Chinese
can
bots.
hack
and
it.
Well,
They just have more
yeah,
people
man.
to put bots into our polling ability, and they'll.
Well, if any election's fair and putting your driver's license in counts as a fair vote in this country, surely we could just register every citizen in the country and then get only
Online
their votes.
with,
Yeah, exactly. So you can't have 500 million Russian votes when there's only 330 million people in the country. So you'd have the same registered voters,
yeah, exactly.
and then some number of them would be old people who aren't voting, and they could get cheated for.
Which
But
is
you
where-
couldn't cheat it so hard that they're just putting in bots only
Well,
as
that's the
the.
same way of all this rigged election bullshit. It's
Exactly.
like what state was rigged? All right, well count the eligible votes in that state, and then you can determine it. That's why if someone thinks it's rigged, show us the evidence.
Well,
Because you should be able to be like, all right, Pennsylvania, how many registered voters are there?
yeah, but
Give us the tallies.
listen, like half the
Exactly,
people
that's a good
vote
point.
already, so it's only like 50% of the population, so you could easily just add another like
Just a
No,
margin of
but
make up
if
like half the
you-
population of votes.
But you'd have to. That'd be a lot of research that goes in to find
But for-
the names of the people who aren't voting and
But
then
it-
vote for them.
But that's 50. That's on the scale of the United States. It's big, but once you go down to individual states, it gets smaller. And for these swing states like North Carolina, that's even a smaller margin.
Yeah.
And you should be able to
Run the
detect
numbers, know the people who are eligible to vote, and then look at the votes you've been casted and compare them to the eligible voters.
And
And
if
be
it's
like,
within like the margin of error, whatever, that's like all right, that's legit.
so I'm not saying any election's fair, and I'm not saying any of ours are fair, but I'm saying if we could ever run a fair in-person election, we could almost as easily run a fair online election using similar techniques to verify each vote. I would think, but again, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how it was done in the past. I guess there was a smaller population. Everyone in the town went down to town hall. You know everyone. The ballots are cast in person.
Yeah.
So as soon as it gets extended to like now, there's more and more opportunity for this stuff.
And then
Yeah.
when that horse-drawn carriage is taking all the votes of your town to the Washington,
Robin
you
Hood
have some
swings in.
pirates,
You switch out.
some
it might be
bandits burgle it
the
and
hardest
switch
time
out the
ever.
votes.
So it might have
Also,
been easier
that's
to
only
verify
for the
votes.
town that cares. Every town that wants to do a fair election can, and then they send them in. And then so there's the stagecoach from the town to the country center. That's where it can be fiddled with. And then there's the towns that are just corrupt initially, and they send in whatever votes they want. So it's hard to picture a fair election that is guaranteed to be fair. It seems impossible to me, really, but I don't
But
know.
even in that, the people who are trying to fake the election, if there's a better candidate, more people are faking it for that person than the other person. So eventually it just gets to the best candidate no matter what.
Well, yeah, the best of
Potentially.
the worst of the worst, best of the
worst.
the best of whatever. But the electoral college the whole thing is to prevent the mob from overruling. So if for some reason everyone in America wanted some obscene person elected, all the electoral college people just vote whatever way they want, just because all their people voted, all the people they represent voted one way, the electoral college person can still vote whatever way they want to vote. And then they only count the electoral college votes, and then you may never be allowed to vote as the electoral college guy again, or girl. But they could save an election or ruin an election by disrespecting their constituents and not voting with what the majority of their constituents.
So who are these electoral college people? Are these infinitely wise philosophers, or why would we trust them over the constituents?
That's a great
Doesn't
question. I don't
make
know
any
how you
sense
become an electoral college voter, but
and what would their credentials be that we would
There's-
trust them over the regular?
it doesn't
populace.
matter if their entire constituents vote one way, the electoral college is still allowed to vote against.
I feel like
they could have 99% of the
fewest-
people they
the
represent
fewer
vote one way.
people who are required, the easier for corruption to sweep in. So it's easier to bribe one electoral college vote rather than bribe
That's
whatever
why
amount of
it's
populace that
funny
needs to vote for them.
All the
Should be a true democracy.
Yep, it'll be a much better system, I'd say, if you want your vote to actually count. But if you want less upheaval, maybe the electoral college is the way to go.
Yeah, it's infinitely impossible and complex to run a global civilization, and it's impossible and beyond me. And
What you need
There's
is a
no
bunch
good
of benevolent
system,
people on mushrooms, or the benevolent dictator every 4 years that just wants the best for everyone. And
Yeah,
Well,
well, that's
then-
why you have the most impact over what's closest to you, and you have to have a good city council, and maybe you have more influence over your city council. And if you have a good city council and you have a couple good city councils, I guess you get a good state governor, and you have to build it from the ground up, and you start small, and you control what you
so,
control.
as Jordan Peterson says, you start by cleaning your own room and go from there.
It seems like
Exactly.
the
If everyone
only
cleaned their
way
own
you have
room,
responsibility
yep.
over it, and
the,
Lead by
the
example.
guy that says, "Hey,
Dominate from the ground up.
I can roll the world for you guys," and then if you go look at his room and it's a shithole
Looks like
and
mine. Then
everything.
You say, no, no,
if you're
no.
pissed about the president, you just make sure you vote in your local election or control and whatever you can.
That was like one of the best things about 8 years ago when John Kasich ran, the governor of Ohio. He was one of the few governors that kept his city's finances in the black instead of in the red.
What beautiful, yeah. That's
So that's
huge
like,
thing.
oh wow, maybe this guy actually knows something about.
That you can keep your
governing.
You can keep your state debt.
That seems
should be a
that seems
requirement.
impossible. Yeah.
So that was actually the first criteria where what do you call the lobbyists? Were like, okay, this guy plays by the book.
Kill him.
We
Kill him.
let him
Get him out of
close to
here.
the office.
There's too many people with differing motives, bad intentions.
I think they're just self-serving, but
Yeah.
I'm a benevolent person, and I think the universe is benevolent, or else life wouldn't be here. Or maybe the strongest
Evil
sign
Trey.
that it's
From Evil Trey, right from the mouth.
maybe it's a sign that we humans are malevolent, and it's a malevolent universe that humans are here.
Have
And
you heard that quote about we're humans with bad backs and poor eyesight, and cells trying to kill us, and suns exploding, and black holes hitting the universe, and we're just...
No, is that your new science book you read? Tell us the
It
quote.
wasn't that particular one, but the point is, we're in nature, we're fighting against entropy, and it's an uphill battle, and most things out there are self-destructive.
All our drinking brothers and
There's a lot of
sisters
dangerous-
are riding on a rock going 27,000 miles per hour, spinning through space at
at
infinite,
another,
in insane velocity we can't even comprehend. Everything out there wants to kill us, and we're slightly...
Our bodies are deteriorating. We're just a species searching for benevolence against all odds,
slightly battling entropy.
and that there could be a fair democratic election in any country this size is a complete
Seems,
miracle.
yep, exactly.
against
It's
all
literally
odds
impossible.
Of corruption and all the forces fighting against us.
Exactly, and money runs everything, and all the money's running. But
That's a great point.
here's what we have. Get together one more time. Get together, got to get together.
in the sun,
Get together.
in the sun.
One more time. Got to
Feel as
get
one.
together one
In
more
the
time.
sun.
Just
In the sun, I
get
feel as
together,
one.
baby.
Wonderful.
One more time.
No one here
Gets out alive now.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
my drinking brothers and sisters out there, punchline, get together one
Which is
more
the whole moral of
time.
the podcast.
That's all we could ever do.
That's
Is have one more drink,
uh,
one more time.
Drinking alone
with
or
our
drinking buddy
warrior
or
brothers.
drinking solo. It's
And what we're trying to do is
positive gatherings,
give you drinking brothers and sisters
rational
Much.
reason.
much love. One more time.
thank you. Thank you, C. Harbaugh.
Maybe we granted another moment of consciousness.
Sweet creator of the universe. Give me one more hour to perform my art and perfect my life. James Douglas Morrison.